listening to the MycoGeeky Podcast. A podcast that inspires people to grow mushrooms at home to improve their mental, emotional, and physical health. Most people call him geeky, and he is a passionate mushroom cultivator, advocate, and educator. Every week, he sits down with fellow cultivators, mushroom educators, scientists, and therapists to discuss the various ways people can approach mushroom cultivation and how mushrooms can be used to improve their lives.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the MycoGeeky Podcast, the podcast that goes deep so you can level up your at-home mushroom game. I'm your host, MycoGeeky, and we got a great show for you tonight. I mean, you guys have been watching the show. You know who's coming on tonight. You know there's going to be a bunch of gems, right? One and only Dave Wombat. We're in the middle of little technical difficulties. We'll get it straightened around, but I got some intro stuff to get through first anyway, so that's all good. Want to definitely shout out my Patreon supporters. It's really cool to see that group grow and build and start supporting each other, asking questions. Nothing makes me feel better than to see people that I've helped for a while, then be able to help other people, stuff like that. So, been really gratifying to see some of that. I mean, it's kind of just like with the Discord, just a tighter knit group of people. So thank you very much. If you guys want to support me on Patreon, it's real simple. Just go on to Google, put in the word Patreon, put in the word MycoGeeky, click on the link. Easy peasy. I also want to shout out my Discord mods. I got a lot of great mods. Some of my mods, all sorts of crazy things happen in people's lives. Some people get thrown for curveballs, and I just want to say thank you to everybody who just keeps showing up and taking care of it's like almost 2,000 people. We keep trying to trim it, but it's still a pretty big Discord. So thank you to all my mods. You guys are wonderful. Really appreciate your guys' help. I mean, just the countless hours of things you guys do every day. Really appreciate it. So I had a lot of people talking to me this week about, how much time I am spending answering people's questions. I have really, truly, from day one of doing this podcast, made myself available. Countless times people are like, holy crap, you responded to me. I can't believe it. I respond to everybody. Go find somebody that tells you otherwise. I'm doing my best, but I'll tell you what, right now, I'm at a point where I spend hours a day helping people out to the point where the content I'm trying to create for everybody, I'm not getting done with. For example, I had 3 pieces of content I was trying to create. I don't have them done yet. I wanted to have them done by now. So I'm pondering ways that I can still be of service to everybody, but get more content out, right? If I take 3 hours to help one guy in direct messages, I help one guy. If I take 3 hours to make content, I help thousands of people. So I got to figure that out. I'm a human being. You guys know, one guy in a basement. I'm trying to figure out how to handle this. So just bear with me. Also want a quick shout out, Stealthy Spores. Like I said before, had a couple people talking about doing these cards that never happened. When Stealthy Spores approached me, I said, cool. Yeah, whatever. Great. I wasn't holding my breath. And, these guys delivered, man. You can come buy some actual decks. There they are. They're right here. I have not gotten into the gameplay yet. I was out of town last week. I've just been crazy busy, but this is the real thing, right? These are real playing cards. You can play an actual game, which we're going to do. We're going to talk about it. Maybe me and Jeff Karras, we'll get together. We can play some games. We'll see. But it's cool. Everybody loves one of them hologram cards, right? You want to get one of those, you can buy it on stealthyspores.com. And then, of course, man, got to have this card. This card's going to defeat Trick every time. And we're going to talk to that guy. Let's see what it says about him here. Dave Wombat started cultivating mushrooms in 1998 and has since become an expert in isolating and stabilizing their unique and intricate genetic expressions. Passionate about educating others on mycology, he offers simple cultivation techniques using popcorn grain and basic monotubs, allowing practically anyone to get involved. Although his focus has been on maximizing genetic complexity within each variant, for Dave, the real joy lies not only in growing these fascinating organisms, but in sharing that delight and understanding with others on their mushroom cultivation journeys. Yeah, it's what he's done. I mean, if you guys have seen that first episode I did with Dave over a year ago, still blows my mind every time when I had it remastered for Buzzsprout. I listened to it again and just little things. I mean, I was there. I thought I paid attention. Little things I forgot about, I guess. So man, you guys, this guy is a real special guy, and we're going to bring him on. We're going to talk to him again. I don't think I'll ever get sick of talking to him. We're going to go over some of the projects he's got going on right now, and then we're going to kind of, bounce some ideas around about the myco community in general, about decrim, about legalization, all that kind of stuff. We're just going to, we're going to have a slightly different tone tonight. So without further ado, let's welcome him to the show. What's up, man?
Can you hear me?
Man, I can hear you. Me and how many other people? I don't know, 100 and some people so far. We can hear you.
We got it going. I did like this. This was like a last minute scramble to switch technology.
Oh, okay.
We're running on cellular signal and it's working better than the Wi-Fi. So
you know what?
We're here.
I like it. I like it. Great. So yeah, man, how have you been? I had actually planned on having you on the show like second week of January, and it just didn't happen. So glad to finally have you on. I know we're into March. Spring's fast approaching.
I don't know what day of the week it is even. That's all. Yeah, it's all the same to me.
I hear ya. It's just, what do I got to do today? I measure my days in what tasks didn't I get done.
I can usually tell the difference between winter and summer and day and night. Right. Other than that, it's all just a continuum. It just keeps going.
Well, my wife will remind me what time it is. Time to pick up the kids. Time to make dinner. Time to this. Time to that. So I have I got an automatic clock way before Alexa. So I'm usually kept on target, which is good. I got ADHD. I need to be kept on track sometimes. So.
Well, I mean, I've got my guinea pigs, and they let me know when it's 6 o'clock every evening. That's when their dinner time is. So they start screaming.
They start making those little noises, huh?
Oh yeah.
Nice. We had a scare today. We were cleaning a couple things out in the garage, and all of a sudden my wife just screams, and I run over like, what is going on? And some small mole had crawled into one of her like little cooler things that wasn't zipped up and got stuck there and died. And a mole this big just scared the ever-loving crap out of her. I was like, I don't know what you're afraid of, but
it's especially that dead one. It's not really going to do anything to you.
No, I mean,
even a live one's not particularly dangerous.
It's been a minute since I've heard about anyone dying from a mole attack. Yeah, it's been a while.
Well, there was the attack of the mole man. Back in the 50s, I think, 1950s.
Oh my gosh!
So it was a thing.
I'll take your word for it. I mean, just like when you mentioned eating raw chicken, I was pretty dubious, and then now I just know to trust what you say. So,
but you know what? I was scrolling TikTok the other day, and I came across a little video clip of some people on some other podcast talking about eating raw chicken. And the misconception
and not myco related.
No, not at all.
Wow.
I don't know what it was about because all they showed was the raw chicken part.
Setting trends. See, all these other mainstream podcasts, they're watching all these niche underground podcasts, stealing content, stealing ideas. That's what
life is complicated and people are busy. Like, we don't have time to cook anymore. We're just eating it raw.
There you go. I mean, yeah. I eat my granola bars raw. So that's about how sushi and granola bars. Maybe? That's about it. I like to cook.
If you toast them, they get soft and fall apart.
That's true. Yeah. Yes, they do. They do. So let's do this. Let's talk about, man, I'll tell you what's been on my mind a lot it is really just by the day. I just can't. I used to really feel like I love to network. I love to connect with people. When I worked in Hollywood, I liked to be the guy that knew everybody, that could, call different people up and all that. I can't do it anymore. Just the amount of people flooding into the space on a daily basis, it's astounding.
This is something that I've always had this reputation of being hard to reach, uh, and it's not so much that I'm hard to reach. I'm just hard for everybody to reach at once is the problem. And
Right.
okay, so like my Facebook group, it's grown. I think that when I did the first podcast with you, I think I might have had around 2,000 or 3,000 members,
Okay.
and we're up over 10,000 now. And
awesome.
And then there's constantly more coming. Every time my old podcast episode comes up on somebody's Facebook or YouTube feed, we get a flood of new members in.
Nice.
And so it is hard to talk to everybody, but I don't stress about it. I do what I can.
I hear you.
I answer as many messages as I can manage with the rest of my stuff going on, and then I make public apologies in the group for everybody that I couldn't get to. But just keep trying, and part of it is I take orders. People, I don't have a website currently, so I still take orders one-on-one, like a street peddler, and I like that. It's personal, it's friendly. I get to know people, and I really enjoy that part of it. One of the things with the website is it automates that for you, but then it becomes impersonal.
Very much, yeah, sure.
And I like hearing people's stories and where they are in their myco journey, and and how I can help with that in any kind of way. So I'm trying to what I'm trying to do is shift my my advising, like the myco advising. I want to shift that more into the group, so it's more in a public space, so that like if somebody has a question for something they're working on or having trouble with, other people might be having the same problem,
right,
and just have not asked. And so if that stuff is public, like in the group forum, then everybody can benefit from it, and it's not just a private conversation. So I'm trying to shift the myco advice more into the public sector, and then there's other people that can help too. Like, I'm not the only one that can grow. Like, there's lots of experienced growers in my group, and so we're trying to do that. And then the whole vending thing, man, it's hard. Like, it's a grind. Like, I like to squish the mushrooms together and have them make babies, but like the stuffing stuff into envelopes and going to the post office part is probably the hardest part of the job.
I'm with you.
Which reminds me, there's a MycoGeeky stunt double at my post office. I've been trying to get my camera up, my phone up, so I can snap a picture of them without looking suspicious and getting the feds yelling at me for taking pictures in the post office.
Just make up a story. Yeah, just make up a story. Say, "Oh, my brother-in-law just likes you. I gotta get a picture with you." I would love to see that.
He's sneaky though. He's the guy that always runs to the back whenever somebody has an issue. Like, he's there and he's gone again.
And where is this? At your coffee shop, or where's
at the post office? The local post office. He's a postman.
He's a good old postman. All right.
He's like postal geeky.
Postal, I like it. I mean, hey, every time I go to the post office, there's a sign that says we're hiring, and boy, are they ever, and do they need good quality employees? I know that.
He might not be your twin. He might be like a long lost older brother, because he's got more salt and pepper than you do.
Okay. Yeah. That's why I keep this a little bit shorter, because it's really coming in here. Same with on the sides. I got a little gray right here too. So yeah, I'm 47. I'm getting older. It happens.
It sneaks up on you.
It does.
I think I turned 50 something again this year.
Again.
Again.
That's nice.
Yeah, so it's not my first 50 at this point.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Although I told everybody I was turning 50 a couple of years early too, so it's all confused now. Like, nobody knows how old I am.
It's just another mystery. It's another.
Richard Nixon was president when I was born.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you're a little older than me. Okay.
He wasn't for long.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't for long anyway, really, but yeah.
No.
Thank God. Oh my Lord. Yeah, speaking of somebody who's hurt our community indirectly for the last decades, that's that guy pretty much. Ugh.
Yeah,
I tell you what, though.
he was there for that.
I tell you what. It's with all the things I worry about with the community. The one thing I don't worry about is that we've reached that tipping point. The cat's out of the bag. Stuff that people like you, well, I've known it for a few years here. I truly didn't have the same perspective on psychedelics as a young kid. They did not spiritually enlighten me as a kid. They were just super fun and cool and neat, and maybe made nature cooler or something like that. But it
Well,
wasn't.
that was me too with mushrooms. Like
Yeah,
my beginning with mushrooms was it was fun.
yeah,
Uh,
and it
and I
still is
didn't
fun. It can still be
it
fun.
is
Yeah,
still fun,
yeah,
but nobody was talking about microdosing back then, and
right.
PTSD and depression and all
Yeah,
these other things, helping with addiction problems. It was just another way to get high, basically.
yeah.
uh, and yet I find that, like, during the time that I was getting into mushrooms, a lot of my other friends were getting into harder substances, and they just never appealed to me. And I don't know if perhaps the use of the mushrooms just kind of shielded me from that. I've always been in a good mood, so maybe they did help with depression, but
Right.
we just didn't know that. Uh, but but yeah, it's definitely out in the open now.
Oh yeah.
There's a SciCon is happening, May something, May like 10th through the 12th or something like that in
Okay.
Las Vegas. I'm going to attend that. That's going to be
Oh, cool.
a
I
fun
don't know if
event.
I heard of that one yet. Psycon, I like it. And that's
Yeah,
in
look it
May.
up.
All right.
SciCon in early May. Uh, if you can get out there, get out there. I'm going to get out there.
Oh, it's in
Uh,
Vegas, you said?
yeah,
Okay. I hate
yeah.
Vegas, but
I mean that's I mean, so
it's
even if
okay.
the SciCon sucks, there'll still be something to do. So
There you go.
there you
There you
go.
go.
But it looks like it should be pretty interesting. Uh,
Yes.
Legalization, we've got like decriminalization in a number of areas now, and steps towards like full legalization if they can figure out exactly how they want to work it. But here's something, really big news flash that not a lot of people are aware of yet. I saw an article online saying that Georgia is looking into psychedelic research now for therapeutic purposes. And Georgia has been one of the three states that you can't even have spores. They've always been
Irony. Right.
they've always been very hardline on that stuff. So that's like a pretty major thing. Uh, if it's
Ever
getting to Georgia, then
yeah.
it's getting around.
It's getting there. I mean, all I know in the recent news, somebody sent me an article about Cleveland Clinic. You know, it's like one of the major hospitals in the country. They started approving psychedelic research. They had been kind of had their eye on it for a while, but they're moving forward with some studies. And that's a very, like Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic, they're not trying to make a mistake. They're usually not the first to the table on controversial treatments and therapies and
No,
whatnot. So that
no.
that just shows you, like, yep, everybody, it's already indisputable. Now it's just the bureaucracy and the machinations of the systems, trying to keep up basically.
Well, and then how it's going to be implemented is the
Right.
big question. Uh, the whole idea that it will go to a dispensary type situation like they did with cannabis is not looking so good in any of these places, really.
Right.
Most places are looking for more of like a therapeutic setting kind of thing,
Right.
where supervised therapy, uh, which eh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure
I don't
exactly
either.
how I feel about that. It's kind of like the big pharma kind of thing coming in. Like,
Right.
how can we make the most money off the individual versus making it
Yeah.
accessible to everybody, uh,
Yeah.
in the best way. But even with not having dispensaries, just being decriminalized to where you can grow your own without having to worry about it
Right.
is a major thing. And I've always been more in support of people growing for themselves than anything,
Yeah.
because I mean, if, like, this is your mental health, you
Right.
should be able to take control of your own medicine. and that's not, I mean, that's unheard of in the medical community. Like they don't like that.
Of course not. No, they don't even like, the docs don't really like the nurse practitioners or the PAs, right? Because they can diagnose and they can write prescriptions, and that's
Right.
like a major bit scope of practice for them. And yeah, so they hate that. So they definitely don't like people, regular old people deciding what medicine they should take. Oh yeah, they don't like that
No,
either.
and then you have like, I was thinking about this earlier. You have over the counter drugs at the grocery store,
Right?
wherever, you know, and most of them started off as an attempt at a prescription drug, but they didn't get approved for whatever reason. And
Mm-hmm.
so they went to the next best thing and mass produced them for just people to grab off the shelf. But it's because most of them aren't very effective. They're
Sure. Right.
they're super safe and more or less, and just not very effective. Uh, and with the mushrooms, they're definitely effective. They're safe,
Yep.
but very effective. So I don't
Yeah.
know where that's going to fall in with their planning. I don't
Right.
expect to see them at Costco anytime soon.
No. Yeah, and then the other thing is, so for example, if you look up some of the most, I think the number one prescribed medication in the country is levothyroxine, right? It's for people that have thyroid issues. The minute they take your thyroid, you're on that drug for the rest of your life. If you have any of these syndromes, you're on that drug for the rest of your life. They love putting you on a drug forever. They don't
Oh
want a
yeah,
one and done drug. They don't want one trip and you're gonna quit smoking. No, no, no. We're making money on this Nicorette gum. We don't want it cured. We right. We want it treated.
yeah, you want to, yeah, ease the
Yeah.
symptoms,
Yes.
but
Exactly.
not get rid of them.
Unfortunately.
Which, and
Yeah.
mushrooms are like that too. You can, well, maybe DMT might be the next level up, because one really good DMT experience leaves a dent on you pretty much forever. Uh,
Right.
with the
Yeah.
mushrooms, there's good effects for a while, but it does fade, and you do need to rejuvenate that every now and
Yeah.
then. So, but again, like if you have the ability to grow them yourself, that's so much better than just buying them from somebody every time you need them. And
Man.
then
For
the
yeah.
other thing with cultivation is, like, I mean, besides like the effects of the mushrooms, is the whole process of cultivation, building a relationship with the organism.
Right.
Uh, and it doesn't matter what variety you pick off the shelf at the website and start growing, like they all change over time. And if you can get that ability to clone and do all that stuff down, you can find what works for you the best. Like you can pick and choose. Like, I like tall skinny ones, I like short fat ones, I like, whatever different features you like about them on the
Right.
outside. But like you can find the best effect for you out of all that. And if it's in a dispensary kind of thing, I mean, look at weed. Uh,
Right.
well, I don't know if you live in a legal place where it's in dispensaries. Do
I
you?
do now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, here in Illinois, uh, there's little stickers on the packaging that says the THC levels and whether it's indica, hybrid, whatever,
Right.
sativa, and I don't care what those little numbers say. A lot of this dispensary weed sucks. Um,
Oh yeah.
it's a lot of it looks the same. It smells neat, but a lot of it isn't as
Right.
effective as the stuff that people were growing in their backyards, 10, 15 years ago. Um,
Yeah.
and I could see that happening with the commercialization and corporate interest in mushroom production. The goal with corporations, especially ones that are uh, tradable stocks, is how can they make the most profit on the least investment,
Right.
and mass producing weak mushrooms would be the best way to do that. They're the
Well, and
easiest to
then
grow,
also
and
they're selling it. So they
yeah,
want it good enough that you want to buy it, but not so good that it's enough that, right? It's like putting salt on your French fries, right? Like it just keeps you eating them. It's a way to keep you going, I guess. I don't know.
so yeah, I feel like the home cultivation is really just the best angle for people that are interested in the mushrooms themselves. There's casual there's, casual users that don't want to grow and they just want to eat a mushroom every now and then. And, some B plus or whatever is going to be great for them. But for somebody like me that eats them on a regular basis, like I need the strongest ones possible.
Right. Yes. Yeah, man, these new little all-in-one grow bags where you literally squirt in some LC or some multi-spore syringe and they're done. I mean, there's just a lot of people that, at least for the time being, maybe they're in college, maybe they're work 2 jobs, whatever it is. They don't have time to go as deep into it as we do.
Well, and I think that's neat too.
Great. Yeah, it's great for them.
I don't want to exclude anybody from the space. That's my thing is, not everybody's in it for the same reasons. You've got legitimate scientists that are like deep into the genetics and the microbiology stuff. And then you've got people that just want to eat a shroom and once every couple of years maybe. And so telling them they have to buy a flow hood and a pressure cooker, like they're not that invested in it. But that doesn't mean they don't deserve to eat some mushrooms. So I think that like a quick and easy kit or something like that for them is great. And plus that might be like what wets their toes and gets them interested in looking deeper. So I mean, there should be something for everybody there.
100%. Yeah, there's this pervasive attitude of, if you don't do everything, get out of here.
Then you do nothing.
Yeah, like, oh,
all or nothing.
All or nothing. Like, and why would you buy that if you can make it yourself? I forget who it was or where I saw it, but I think it was one of my old posts. Oh, I had an old post saying I got some of the new MicroPost tubs. And somebody was like, oh, I can make 4 of those for that price. And I'm like, some people don't want to make 4 of those. I hated making tubs. Like, it's okay if, like, I just don't understand that somehow in our society, we've lost the ability. I guess it's the tech, right? The phones just keep us so self-centered that we've forgotten that there is more than one way to live your life in this country, and then go to a couple other countries and you go, oh, wow, there's like probably 17,000 different ways to live your life, and they all work. And we all get to the same spot at the end anyway. So like, why do you care if somebody bought a tub? Why do you care? I just don't understand that attitude. It's so weird. It's so weird.
Some of the criticism I think is like is aimed at the producers of the tubs. They're like, all these people are greedy.
Yeah.
They're stealing from everybody. You know what? If there's a product and people want to buy it, more power to them.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's like that in everything. It's not just mushrooms. Like there's people trying to capitalize on every little thing out there. Like
everything.
I recently upgraded my phone. I got the newer whatever, the Samsung 35 whatever it is,
428.
I don't even know what it is, but I needed a case for it, and good God, there's so many options. Like there's a billion different companies trying to crap out cases for this phone, and it makes it really kind of difficult to find what you're looking for. Like, but they're all good. Just pick one. Just pick one, go for it, and then throw it away and buy another one because the first one sucked. That's what I had to do. But
that's what they want you to do anyway. They don't even care. They're making them for so cheap. If they sell them for $10, like some phone case probably cost them 14 cents to make or something ridiculous.
Oh, if that. The shipping cost more than the phone case did to make.
Exactly.
It's a piece of injection molded silicone rubber.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. The thing that I keep thinking about is that you got these people hating on MicroPose or max yield, or literally anybody you know who actually got capital investment, whether it's their own money or somebody else's, and then like brings real business acumen to the table and develops a product. They're hating on that, and I'm sitting here going, they have no. I'm mark my words, 5 to 10 years from now, it's gonna. This time right now is gonna look so primitive and so simple. And we're still in the underground. We are
well, and and it's these things like take the max yield bin or whatever. So okay, it's a lot more expensive than a Sterilite tub from Walmart.
Yeah.
I'll give it that. Uh, but they do work.
They work. Yeah,
I've
they do.
seen great grows in them. And they're the capital investment, like you put it, like that gives them reach. And so like, people are seeing these ads on Facebook.
Yep, that's
Uh,
what it is.
there's people I know that aren't into mushrooms, but they see mushroom ads on Facebook because of who they're friends with.
Mm-hmm.
The algorithm, like, hey, you're friends with this guy and he's got mushrooms all over his page, so maybe you'd like to see some mushroom
Right.
stuff. My mom was getting mushroom ads.
I'm sure she gets plenty of ads.
And
oh my God.
And I mean it, but I mean it. Eventually, it does bring more people into the community, and people that just don't realize. Like, I didn't know you could grow mushrooms when I lived in Texas when I was a teenager. I thought they all came from outside. I thought the people that were selling them collected them outside and sold them. I didn't know that it was even possible to grow them. And so like you see an ad for like a max yield bin, it could just be like a light bulb goes off over your head and like, wait a second, I can grow mushrooms.
Right.
Like it's a revelation.
Yeah, man. It's like, how would I describe it? If you don't know, you just don't know. Like, out in California, the one thing that I tell everybody about California, especially over here, a lot of people hate on California. Whatever weird thing you're into, there's at least 1,000, if not 10,000 people in California who are way more into it than you. So if you like, you want your kid to own a $7,000 go-kart and you're training them for Formula One, there's like 950 kids out there all racing circuits every week, and you can get in with that. You can, if you like to dress up and do the Renaissance Fair thing, you can do that every weekend. Like, whatever weird ass thing you were into, there are people who are into it, and you just never know until you get exposed to it. And I think
Right.
that's exactly this community. The average person who even knows what magic mushrooms are, they don't know about an actual online community that has formed thanks to, the advent of the internet. And now people are doing podcasts and people are, famous vendors. This, right? Most people have no idea. They don't know anything about this community until, like you said, you're on Facebook, and because somebody's throwing 40 grand a month at Facebook ads, now they go, oh, cool. Oh, really? This little tube? I can grow mushrooms with this tube in this bag? Oh, wow. Just like you said.
Now
And then
I don't know if I like all the ads I've been seeing on Facebook.
oh, no, God, definitely not.
There's
Definitely
some
not.
that are not giving people a
Yeah.
realistic expectations. Like, they're definitely out to make the sale. But
Right.
but sometimes that's what it takes is that first investment and losing money and being disappointed to start the fire into looking into how can I actually make this work,
Yep. Yeah.
which I still
Yeah.
don't approve of, like, selling people a false hope. But if you were just more realistic with it, like hey, like I don't remember I'm not even going to try and name the company or whatever, but there was an ad that said, you just buy this bag and then you just shoot these spores into it, and in 3 weeks you have mushrooms. And I'm like, well, 50-50 on the spores, like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
actually working
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah, I
But
had that problem. Pacific Substrate sent me a couple of their Ready Set grow bags. I was pretty skeptical, but they also, I guess, one of their sister companies had. They sent me some spore syringes, so I used their stuff. So I used their
sure.
multi-spore syringe, and it myceliated wonderfully. It colonized like a charm. I thought, oh, holy crap, this is gonna work. And then it just stalled, and then one contaminated, and one got like a lot of mic piss in it, and it didn't quite work out. I got flushes from both, but very pathetic flushes. And I messaged him and said, hey, I'm not going to like shout this out, or I'm not going to do a big post bashing you guys, but like that did not work out for me this round. I probably would want to try it with liquid culture. Well, ironically enough, they had sent me, I think, 4 bags, and I had traded Jeff Karras. He's local to me. We were hanging
Mhm.
out at the Ohio Mushroom Festival. I traded him 2 bags for some of his genetics. So he knocked his bags up with his liquid culture, and they colonized beautifully and had amazing flushes. So I think those all-in-one bags with LC is probably a better bet. You already know the
Well,
multi-spore
that's the
syringes
whole
are,
spore syringe thing is,
yeah, too
even
dirty.
if it could be dirty, but there's also the germination time.
Yeah,
You don't know, it could be anywhere from 3 days to a month for the spores to
to a
germinate,
frickin'
which is
month.
time for other things to propagate. Like
Yeah.
bacteria is going to be all over that thing by the time the spores come around.
Oh yeah.
Whereas with the liquid culture, it can outpace any competition that it
Yep.
might have in there.
Exactly.
So
And
so
this
that's
is
a
why
thing.
people love liquid culture. People love bags. People love liquid culture.
It's definitely an easier start
It's an
for
easier
for
start.
anybody growing.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, there's a little bit of shade that gets thrown around at liquid culture. People go, it's dirty, or people always
Well,
have
if it's
problems
dirty,
with
it's
it.
dirty. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the problem with liquid culture is it's either all the way good or all the way bad. Like
Yes.
there's no middle ground on it.
But I mean, multi-spore syringes can be and are
Both,
also
yep, they can do
probably
the same
equally
thing.
as dirty. So, I mean, this is why everybody preaches agar.
Well, and
Agar cleans it
for
up.
doing like the actual genetic work and the breeding and whatnot, like I definitely prefer spores.
Yeah.
So when somebody's like, "Hey, I've got this thing. Let me send you this genetic," and it comes as a plate or an LC, I have to
Right.
grow it first and then get my spores. So
Yep.
it's just a different step of the process. You're just
Yeah.
entering in at a different point, but you can still do all of it. Like you're
Oh
not stuck
yeah.
with just that one genetic forever. It's going to produce spores, and then you're back to breeding again.
Yeah. Yeah. And, one of the things I've been mulling over in my head that I keep thinking I should do some content around this is this. A lot of the stuff you get an instinct for if you've grown 1,000 bags or 400 tubs or
Sure.
for 10 years. But in the beginning, you don't know basic things like the pace of the mushrooms and then the coordination of the process. So especially when you got it where at any given time I got a bunch of bags here, I got a bunch of jars here, I got, you know what I mean? Like you got to manage it all,
The rotation.
the rotation. And the first time, if you're just one guy growing mushrooms a little over obsessed like I am, that first time I think I ran like 14 32-quart sterilites, and almost all of them were ready to go the same day. And I was like, okay, I guess I don't have a life today. It's going to be a marathon. My wife's going to hate me. I'm going to ignore my family because fuck, if I don't deal with these tubs, it's going to be a problem. Then I wasted my time. So
Well,
yeah,
and
how do you learn
a
that?
challenge for me too. Uh,
Yeah.
Normally, like once I'm in my groove and I'm got everything going the way I want, I kind of work at a furious pace anyway, so I'm constantly overloaded, and I like that. But I just moved recently, so
Mm-hmm.
everything was cut off, and I'm basically starting over from scratch.
Yeah.
And so like my initial instinct is, oh my God, I've got to fill all these jars up. But no, like you don't want to fill them all up at
Oh
once
no.
because then, like you said,
Yeah.
they're all going to be ready at once and you're going to be smacked. So I have to try
Yeah.
really hard just to do small bits at a time and kind of build the rotation back up slowly. But
Yeah.
that leads us into my frozen stuff.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Okay. Hold on. Let me pull off the overlay. Let's pull this up and talk about that.
okay, so this is a jar. It's one of many jars. I don't even know how many jars I have. I have lots of jars, but most of them are probably half of them are empty and half of them have grain in them right now. But in the process of moving, I didn't have a place to keep anything or store anything, and so everything was frozen. I
Oh,
froze all
okay.
my agar plates. I froze all my jars that were partially colonized. And I did an experiment maybe a year or two ago where I froze a bunch of things and then tried to rejuvenate them, just because people were worried about ordering stuff in the mail. If I order my stuff in the mail, is it going to die during the winter? And the answer is pretty much no. Liquid like spore syringes or liquid culture syringes can expand. The liquid can expand and push the plunger out of the syringe, and then you've got a problem because it's violated. It's not clean anymore. But the mycelium itself is very resilient. So this jar in this picture here is on the road to recovery. It hasn't been shaken since it's been frozen, but it looks kind of ugly when it's frozen. It's like the mycelium kind of shrinks up onto the grain, and it just looks hideous. This one's coming back. It's starting to fluff back up, and I've since shaked it now. But this jar was frozen solid for 2 months.
Wow.
And it's doing fine. And this particular jar is a Daimon cross. This is the El Choco. This was the monocaryon in the mix. And then the other half of the cross is my Ragnarok strain, which is, and that was the dietary that was paired up. And so this project, I've been fighting with this thing for like, I don't know, like a year or so. Like I started the actual cross a long time ago, and I was too excited to get it to grain. So the first one, contaminated, and then I moved and had to dump everything before the second attempt came up. So this is going to be like my third attempt at getting this thing to fruit, and I still don't even know if it crossed. It could easily just grow Ragnarok. I know it's a dikaryon. I just don't know which dikaryon it is.
I see.
And so this is the Ragnarok here.
Yep. Okay.
And what is Ragnarok? Ragnarok is a Yeti Crooked Mystery Cross.
Ooh. Okay.
And so it's big, beastly, epic looking mushrooms that inspired the Ragnarok name for me. I just looked at them and I was like, oh, Ragnarok. So
Nice.
So I don't know if it takes it takes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But we'll find out in maybe another month or so.
Nice.
I'm pretty excited for that one.
So now this you've shaken this one and it's recovered.
It's not shaken in the picture yet.
Like no, but I'm saying since you have shaken it since.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Nice. I had something happen to me one time. I had just bought for the first time one of them little fridges. Where is it? Yeah, right there.
Yeah, the mini fridge.
Little mini fridge.
The culture
got it
fridge.
On Facebook Marketplace. Got a super great deal on it. Picked it because it had digital readout of the temperature and all that stuff. And went on a vacation, came back, and somehow it gets real close. It's supposed to get real close to freezing. It's not supposed to actually be able to freeze anything.
Right.
I don't know if it did freeze it or it just got real close, but all the water pulled out of the agar and everything's so you know about this. Okay. Yeah.
Well, because I froze like a couple of 100 plates.
And all the water.
Well, as long as you do the transfers while they're still frozen, I was able to recover probably about 30% of the plates that I froze. And the biggest issue was them thawing out and separating before I could get to do the transfers on them. So I figured that out the hard way. And now I know, like, if I am going to do that kind of thing again, I'll try to work with them frozen and not thaw them out prior to doing the transfers. But the cultures that were rescued are doing great. So
it's great.
So you can freeze a plate. I don't know how many times I've seen in these Facebook groups where someone had a similar experience and their mini fridge went AWOL and froze everything and they just threw it all away.
Yeah.
And
I did not, but
it's not a total loss.
I was tempted.
It's not a total loss. It can be recovered.
Oh yeah, I actually had it where because I had stored a bunch of stuff I hadn't worked yet, and just, man, I was crying about it. Like, oh my God, I know I'm not going to give up. Even though everybody told me it's gone, throw it out, forget about it. I refused. I did transfers. And a very fascinating thing was almost all of them in that first transfer off the frozen plate. And I don't know if it was the media I used or what, but it all had very spiky, pretty rhizomorphic growth right away. and it was uniform across all the mycelium. I was like, how is this even possible? But I thought, wow, great, cool. I don't know what happened. Maybe I maybe it's like Spider-Man mutation, something or other going on. But then by the second transfer, a lot of them sort of started acting weird, but they were still, I would say maybe 60% were all still growing. So yeah, I concur with you that you can, I don't know how frozen they can get. I imagine if they get very frozen or like too cold, maybe you could
I
kill
don't
them,
know.
but
I mean, my plates were frozen for a good solid month,
really.
like
But
zero
like what?
degrees.
Okay. But so like just freezing. What I'm saying is like I wonder if you go way below freezing, if that
Oh well,
impacts it or not. I'm
I don't
curious.
know. Well, you got to figure in nature, there's mushrooms that pop up at the very beginning of spring
Yeah,
that had the colony has to have been established underground over
it's true.
winter.
Yeah,
So I mean,
yeah.
they just they're tough.
Yeah, I always wonder about that. I know in Michigan, like the frost line's about 3 foot down. So I'm like, the mycelium's got to just go lower than that. And as soon as it starts thawing, it just starts working its way back up again. And yeah, so some of
Well,
them
and the
might be,
suggestion, the when I posted my frozen stuff in the group, I let everybody know, hey, I'm trying to recover all these frozen plates. Uh, the assumption is that it can't work because ice crystals will rupture the cell walls
right.
when it freezes, and that's that'll happen to us if you freeze us, we get
Sure.
frostbite.
Yep.
It causes damage, uh, but we're not mycelium.
Right.
And mycelium is really skinny and there's not a lot of water in it. I mean, there's some,
Right.
but I don't know if it's enough to really produce crystals to the point where it's going to destroy things. Now, some of the plates that I had frozen and then thawed and then refrozen, and those ones were trash,
Right.
for sure. So there's,
So
I don't know, more
but man,
experiments need to be done.
you could do so many FAFO projects with that. I mean, somebody out there, if you're looking for something to fart around with, yeah, figure like, can you freeze it, unfreeze it? How long can it be frozen for? How long is the duration between freezings? All you could,
Well, I also, I did lose a lot of cultures. There were a bunch of clones that I'd been nursing for a while, that I was like sad because I'm like, oh, these clones, like, oh, I remember this one, now it's gone. But it's kind of liberating because I'm like, well, now I've got a bunch of empty plates and I can get back to work, filling them back up again.
right? Yes.
So I've been on that mission. I've been just kind of going through my stash and restarting every project I've got. There's actually some of the other pictures I sent you. Mr. Crinkle.
Yep. Yeah.
Mr. Crinkle's a pretty early project. This was I don't know. I'll see if you can
I'm pulling
find
them
it.
up. Hold on. Hold
Yeah,
on.
Mr.
There.
Crinkle.
There we go.
He was named for his crinkly gills, but this was a tat. This was a tat thing that happened in a grow from the tat source genetics, the unstable GT that all the tat stuff comes from. I had a little mushroom that was like kind of shaped like a mushroom cloud, but it didn't have any gills. It was just kind of
Mm-hmm.
hard, like white material. That picture's in here somewhere too. Uh, and so it didn't have any gills, so no spores, but I cloned it. And that's a nice one too.
Is this
Um,
the one?
I'll keep going. It's just a single little, that one.
Oh, there we
There it
go.
is.
Oh, it's like an
There's
atom bomb. Yeah.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
looks like a mushroom cloud, and it's
Yeah.
just like this. It's all this really hard material, but the clone from that produced spory mushrooms with the crinkly gills, and it
Nice.
also produces brains on a regular like enigma type fin growths. Uh, One of the pics that you started off with there had a mixture of that. There's some of the brains. This one, you can
Oh,
see
there
they're
we
they're
go. Yeah.
growing together in a cluster, like they're all happy, one big happy family. So Mr. Crinkle, despite the fact that he produced spores, he's been really difficult to work with. The spores don't germinate half the time. Uh, and I'm happy to get him going again. So I'm really excited about this. Mr. Crinkle is half of the chocolate crinkle cross, which is chocolate crinkle is very popular,
Oh yeah.
and I'm not sure where it gets its insanity from because it has two insane parents. So it's like compounded. But Mr. Crinkle's coming back into rotation, so I'm excited about that one.
Nice.
And there's a bunch of other old ones too.
So
Early
now what? So
generation.
these were, hold on, these were all in your Mr. Crinkle. Are these still other weird things Mr. Crinkle does?
Yes, these are all Mr.
Cool.
Crinkle.
All right.
This one, that one right there is kind of like a go back one. This one, I was like, oh, it's doing the same thing it did the first time, where it just has like a solid lump for a cap.
Right.
But if you look really close, there's a tiny skirt underneath it. And then you go to the next pick. Not that one. Not that one.
Oh, maybe the previous one.
That one. Yeah. That's the same fruit, but now the skirt has spread out.
Oh, yeah.
And it actually did develop like a full cap. It's just weird. It's just a weird.
That really is. So I would have never thought this would turn into that.
And I think, I don't remember if there's another picture of that same fruit in this one either, but it spread out pretty significantly by the end. And these are all Mr. Crinkle. They tend to have a little puffball hat on top. If they don't have like a lump of solid growth, they've got, at the very least, they've got a little party hat. But this is a slow grower, really dense, hard fruits. They're like wood. And I'm mostly interested in it for its breeding potential, just because it's so weird. It's bound to do something weird to whatever else you do with it.
How often do you get the twisting stipe like that?
That's kind of neat. I've gotten that on a few things, and it just seems kind of random. Somebody posted something the other day. It was like a Lucid Gates cross, like Lucid Gates and something else crossed. And all the fruits were twisted like that. They just look really neat. I would make them do that if I could. Maybe if you like turn the tub a few inches every couple of hours to get the light to.
Or maybe some of these motherfuckers, they can't stop touching their tubs. Maybe they're just holding the cap and exerting the slightest pressure on it over time. Yeah, there you go. That's what you gotta do. That's how
I would try.
Yeah,
I would try. But yeah, that's a good one. I just restarted my brass monkey project. That was an ape revert, like a golden ape revert, partial revert, because it didn't revert to like spore droppers. It still has like PE qualities, but with just a really bright orange cap. And so I just got that one started again. I restarted Jack Frost from first generation spores. Just take another run at it. Let's see what it does this time.
And there's a very good chance it'll do something completely different.
Well, the Jack Frost did. It produced like the classic Jack Frost, but it also produced some other looks that I'm still exploring. That was a jumbo Jack. It grew like 170 gram fruit, and I sent out a bunch of swabs from it. And so far people's results haven't produced more giants, but the fruits are different from normal Jack Frost. They've got a little bit more thickness to them and kind of like a fat nippy dome in the center of the cap. So yeah, it's just,
awesome. Yeah, man, this is getting, I'm thinking in my head about the difference between toiling long into the night and perfecting a cultigen, growing it 18 times, guaranteeing its stability, and then releasing your masterpiece, kind of Tat Syndicate style.
Right.
Versus you were, to my knowledge, I'm sure somebody was doing it, but you were really the main person that I was ever aware of doing it, going, I'm going to document very well what I have going on, and I'm going to make those swabs available. So, I watched certain things you were working on evolve. So somebody who said they bought El Choco in August, it might look different than when somebody said they bought El Choco from a recent grow of yours.
Right.
And I thought that was cool. And then
a lot of my projects, I'll send out swabs from the earlier generations just as an extra with orders,
right?
Just to kind of crowdsource the work and see what they do.
Yes.
Ed's doing that.
You and Ed. Right. You did it. Ed said, "Amen, brother," and he did it. He caught a lot of flack because he was like overtly. He actually was labeling them F1, F1, F1.
Yes.
And a lot of people said, "Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't way too early. Way too early." But people are having fun with that.
And
People are having lots
that's
of
what it's
fun.
about, is the fun.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to be like the jealous wizard, like up in the tower with my secret projects that nobody
Right.
can have.
Yes.
We can all have fun with this. Like I want
Yeah.
everybody to have just as much fun as I'm having.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know. I guess it's probably just different styles, right? Like you and I can walk into Baskin Robbins and we're not necessarily going to pick the same flavor. And people are the same with the mushrooms. Some people, I don't know if they're OCD. I don't know if they want it to go a certain way, but some people want to see a picture and get that thing. And some people have done that. And then now they go, well, I want to get that thing, but I'll be happy if it does something else.
Right.
It just depends upon the personality.
But there's a, in the big pack of pictures I sent you, the Amex K-Set cross, there's a family tree picture in there.
Oh yeah,
See
let's
if you
pull
can
that one
find
up.
that one.
I got it. All right. So yeah, walk us through this cross.
Okay, well this is Butters. I named this one Butters after the South Park character, but mostly because of its buttery color. And this is a leucistic, kind of a dwarfy leucistic mushroom.
Yeah.
So it ends up having dark spores, but not much pigment to speak of. Like it doesn't have a golden cap really.
It's almost like a sleeper albino. Like you can almost trick people into.
Right, you would think it was albino. It's just it's too yellow in the stipe though. You've got too much those veins of gold in the stipe, or it's too buttery. It's too buttery. But this is a cross
pretty
of
white though. I mean, it's impressive for how mostly cream it is.
The Amex is an albino from the wild Mexican red spore. And that one's most notable because it has really weird crinkly gills. This is Butters again after it's matured. So you see it's done purple.
Yeah,
everywhere.
they got the regular spores.
But the Amex was the dicaryon, and then the mono in this cross was KSAT. KSAT gold squats, which is a TAT KSSS cross. So this is one of the first tubs of the actual cross, and you see it's a hot mix. There's already been some stuff picked out of here, but it's a hot mix of weirdos. Just everything's different and everything's strange, and so there's a lot of projects that have come out of this, and that's what this whole pack of pictures is just a bunch of different things from it. But find the family tree, find the genetic tree picture, so I can touch on that. Okay, here we go. So this is the Amex K-Set cross story, basically, starting with the unstable GT, which is the TAT source genetics, and then that develops into Wombat TAT, which is crossed with the KSSS to make KSAT. And then that moves its way down to link up with the Amex once that's formed from the wild Mexican red spore. But from beginning to end, this tree represents probably about 5 years of work.
Wow,
that's
awesome.
And so each little spot on this tree isn't just a single grow. Each one of these spots is multiple generations, which even if you're not mating two things together, every time you're starting from spores, that's still a breeding event.
Right.
And so like each one of these little steps along the way has multiple steps inside it. On an actual timeline, it would look pretty complex, but it all kind of happens in the background while you're, washing dishes and watching TV and other stuff. So it didn't feel like a lot of work. But once I actually assembled the tree to look at it, I was like, holy crap, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah. This is important for enthusiastic new growers who do listen well and are advancing quickly, and then get a taste of the glory, right? Maybe they grew their first like really impressive fruit and they go, oh, I can do this. I'm doing all the things. And sometimes I tell them, you're doing great. But it's still work. Like now the real work begins. Now you know what you're doing. You can grow some mushrooms. But now there's a lot of work. All the other games that are fun to play, it's a lot of work. Like you just said, I'm doing the math here. If each one of these little bumps lines is at least 3 to 4 grows, I mean, this is well over 130 tubs.
Oh yeah.
Easily.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And And so when the first real genetic family tree that went around was the tat one.
Yeah.
Because it's a single family of genetics, so you can actually track that. And people have asked, like, are there more of these? Are there family trees for other things?
Right.
And there really aren't. Like,
There
nobody
are
nobody
not.
really has any of that. So I put together this one, and I was like, man, this is so much work. I don't know if I'm going to do this for any other ones, because it's a pain in my ass. Uh, okay, it didn't take me that long. I mean, this was like 5 minutes to throw this together.
You know what,
But
Dave? I bet amongst the 10,000 people in Wombat Labs, I bet there is somebody who, if you just scribbled this out on a sheet of paper, they would be happy to turn that into some cool graphic. You wouldn't even have to do any extra work.
Well, that's my thing, is I don't write anything down. Like,
Yeah.
it's all in my head. So
Yeah.
so actually writing it down was a lot of work for me. It
That's
seemed
the
like
hard
I'm
part.
like
Yeah.
like this is painful.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Now the
back
other,
to
I'll tell
the
you this. Hold on. So the other reason this is a problem, you can do this because you did it all.
yeah,
You did all the work.
right.
It gets trickier when other people are doing the work or other things are going off on tangents. And sometimes you can send stuff out and you might have sent somebody 13 swabs and they did something magical with one. And instead of giving you credit for where the swab came from, they want to take all the glory. And you never realize that some whole other genetic is linked up with this
Well,
tree.
well, even with like some of the classic, like, everything came from a landrace at some point.
Right. Yes. Everything.
But there's a number of genetics out there that have been, for sale for 20, 30 years that nobody knows where they came from, because people obscured the origins of it.
Right.
They
Yep.
didn't want to say where it came from, or they just didn't. And now they're dead, or just, they moved on and became a welder and stopped mycology,
Right.
and nobody knows where they are anymore. And so we just don't know. We don't know where some of
Yes.
these things come from. Somebody was asking about keepers creepers.
Yep.
The keepers creepers, and that's, I do believe that's a Cambodian. It comes from Cambodian. Avery's comes from Cambodian.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
But a lot of people don't know this,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
you know. And so, like, and now with all the different genetics that are out, people are jumping into the breeding space, and they're mating things that they don't know the history of. So they're just kind
Yep.
of like, it's hard to make a family tree. It's kind of like just a big pile of sticks.
Amen. That's why I love getting these. I bought a bunch of wild prints from Jordan Jacobs because I was like, cool. I got an INAT observation. I can see the freaking fruit that the little patch where these genetics come from. I like that. I like
That
starting
is
with
fun.
something wild.
I just got started. I traded a guy out in the Philippines. I've got a couple
Oh.
wild Philippine. Uh, I've got a wild Philippine cube and a couple of pans. Uh,
Oh.
don't know what
Yep.
they're going to do yet, but I'm excited. Like, because they're
Nice.
new, they're
Yep.
fresh, they're new to
Exactly.
the cultivation space. It's exciting.
Man, I had one of my buddies, Sean. He's been one of my longtime mods. He went to where'd he go? Yeah, I think he went to Costa Rica and found a cube and started working it. Him and Agar Addicts were working on it, and he sent me both his and Agar Addicts isolations from culture, and they were both problematic. They also were having problems cleaning up the wild cultures.
Yeah.
And I farted around with these things. I tried to grow them about, I think, 5 different times, and I finally got a bag. I just kept being more and more ridiculous with trying to clean the culture up, and finally got a bag to fruit. 5 weird, pathetic fruits. One looked halfway decent, but I'm like, okay. After I think over a year of working on these, I finally have what might be something that wants to grow in my lab. So
Well, and you have
it's
to
fun.
figure, like, stuff like Cambodian is a popular land race for people that are just starting off from a
Yep.
spore website. Uh, how Cambodian is it at this point?
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Who knows? You don't know.
the people that
Yeah.
you're trading with, like, oh, I've got, Cambodian, I've got, Ecuadorian, but how many years has it been grown in captivity in
Right.
Indiana before it got to this point? Look, and so
Now
it's
it's
it's more
Indianionian.
Right.
Yeah,
It's been
right.
optimized for home cultivation, and
Yep.
it's genetically very distinct from the original at this point.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I do get excited about these wild ones, and I don't care if they give me a shitty flush. I want to see what they're gonna do.
Yep.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and they might grow completely different from how they do in the wild, because it's a different setting, it's a different
Right.
environment altogether. So,
Oh,
but
that's
either
for
way,
certain. I mean, you see that. This is one of the, for me, the fascinating things about seeing people growing zaps right now is all the indoor fruits look very different from the outdoor fruits.
very
And
much so.
it just, I mean, I can tell they're the same thing, but boy, oh boy, the phenotype is looking way different. It's just looking different.
Well, a good contaminant example of that is the schizophilia commune.
Right. Yes.
That one is on trees. It grows like a little fan thing, a
Yep.
beautiful little
Yep.
fan thing. It's beautiful, and if it sneaks into your tubs, and here's the danger with it, it's capable of fruiting from a monocarian. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to it
Right.
doesn't have to do a dicarian in order to fruit. So as an invasive species, that gives it a real edge. You know? It only takes one.
It
Uh,
only takes, yes, it's
but when it grows in your tub, it grows like these terrifying little zombie hands, like
right.
little weird like stick things with fingers on the ends, and it doesn't look anything like it does in the wild.
Yeah.
Uh,
And there's a lot of forage mushrooms where, you know, they usually grow in logs and then every once in a blue moon they won't, or even sometimes pleurotus, you know, it looks a certain way and every once in a while you'll find one and it'll look more like a traditional,
like
you
with
know,
a right, instead
yeah,
of going
instead
in
of
one direction.
correct. And you can never tell. Or sometimes these things, right, all the mushrooms want a certain amount of humidity and moisture, and then they want the evaporative process to kind of smoothly occur so that they can do their thing. And here we'll get like 2 or 3 days of rain, then it'll stop. Everything will start flushing, but then maybe it'll get real hot, and then it starts desiccating some of the fruit. Then you're like, "What is this?" Oh, and it's hard to tell because it's just been altered by the environment, and that's what makes this stuff so hard sometimes to figure out is
Well, and
the
that's
environment.
like the issue with Enigma. The Enigma type mutation has popped up from a lot of different genetics. Like
Yeah.
there's a number of different. Like we
Yeah.
just saw the Mr. Crinkle. Mr.
Yeah.
Crinkle brain's very similar to Enigma. Uh, People are like, well, wouldn't it be cool to find it out in the wild? I'm like, well, it would, but you're going to have a hard time keeping the conditions right for 60 straight days
How?
in the
Yeah.
wild for it to develop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regular cubes, they pop up in the next like day or two after a good rain, and then they're
Yeah.
gone. So
Not to mention the fact this kind of reminds me if you've seen that the movie Idiocracy, right?
yes,
Where they make fun of how all the smart people are too busy working and getting degrees to procreate and make babies, and while all the dumb people are procreating and making babies. The problem is, right, we have all our pampered little princesses in the lab and they have
right.
perfect environmental conditions. So all these little wimps, they can do what they're allowed to do, but in the wild, the strong gene, the strong, you know, trait is going to win out. So like you just said, when in the environment is it ever going to be the same to allow Enigma to grow in the wild? It just
Or
probably won't.
even penis envy, like a penis
Yeah.
envy type
Yeah.
mutation. Like
Yeah.
they can't keep the conditions right
Yep.
long enough for that to develop. I'm sure it
Yeah.
happens, but it gets stunted and withers in the sun before it has a chance to,
Right. You just don't, you wouldn't even know it if it was going to do that.
no.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't even drop its spores, so it could only grow again in the exact same spot if the conditions came up right for it again.
Right.
So it's unlikely.
Yeah. That's a fascinating point of what we're able to artificially nurture and create in the lab because we're eliminating the competition,
What
because
look
we're
at
giving,
dogs.
yeah.
Look at dogs, for
Yeah.
example. Like they all come from the gray wolf
Yep.
originally. And boy, some dog breeds nowadays are really far from that wolf.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean,
They're
I use that example all the time for people where it's like, don't forget the whole phrase "a cube is a cube" gets, a bad rap, but I think it's important to remember that all these things are cubes. They are
Well,
the
they are.
same species. We are just doing crazy things with them.
Well, and then you get into this weird, like, well, natalensis. It's not a
Right.
cube, but it's real close.
Right.
It's close enough that it can breed, and
Yeah.
so like that's been like for the longest time before we had DNA sequencing available. That was the litmus test, was if it can breed, with
Right.
another thing.
Yes.
Like, you got some things that are different species that can produce an offspring, but then the offspring's sterile.
They're
Like
sterile. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
so like there's, but natalensis is kind of bridging that gap a little bit.
Yeah.
But then we're finding out that, like, fungi in general are just weird like that. Like, they don't follow the same rules as everything else.
They are
They
so different. Yeah.
and the mutations that we get in our lab, from one thing, like take the tat GT or the Mexican red spore, for example, that have just, they're so variable. They produce so many different things. That kind of stuff goes on constantly in the wild,
Yeah.
just to see if it'll stick.
Yep.
And that's how they survive in different niches and
Yeah.
adapt.
Yeah. Now, so the other thing, right? If you read the paper on natalensis, it says it's basically like a cube, but it grows in a different environment, a way more arid environment. There's like a little less pronounced annulus. And I know from growing it myself, boy, nothing has overlay like that
It behaves a
natalensis.
lot differently. It does
It
behave
does.
differently.
That
Like
is
the
that's super unique. It's like
the overall
TTBVI level.
morphology of the fruit is pretty close,
Yeah.
but it's definitely weird.
Yeah.
And that brings the crosses that come from it are just exciting, because you
Oh
just don't
yeah.
know exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah.
They're subtly different.
Yeah. And man, I tell you what, first time I harvested a tub, I mean, they really seemed like cubes. They had the exact smell of a cube. I mean, the
Yeah.
proportions were definitely different. But man, the first time I cut those, and I was like, I'm cutting a basic ass cube, and it's bluing like an ape, if not stronger. Like
Oh, it's
just a
different. It's
deep
definitely
blue.
different on the
I'm
on
like,
the
yeah,
inside.
something different going on in here. So, yeah, they're cool. I also love them. Maybe I don't love them as much as the Myco Mamas do, but I definitely love them.
They do take a little bit more attention as far as getting the conditions right for them.
Right.
Uh, when they first started really going around, everybody was growing the spaghetti,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, not giving it the full extra fey that it needed, and they'll
Right.
they'll grow, but man, they were like some noodles.
Yeah, I never grew those. Mine always were like those, like very TP like stalks with the very small caps, and working them a little bit more. I got them to look a little bit more normal, but yeah, some people had them straight up just a tub of spaghetti.
Which it's some good spaghetti though.
Yeah, and you got to put sauce on top of it. Just a little butter, and you're good. Yep, very true. All right, well, let's finish. We didn't look at quite all of those Amex KSAT picks. Let me pull this off here.
Yeah,
Real
there's a
quick.
few more. There's a few more in there. The butters has been released, and that one's out there for the general public at this point.
Yeah,
Uh,
butters, more
that's
butters.
butters.
And then this
Uh,
was your first cross tub.
right. And so, like, these little you see the three squatty guys.
Yep, this
Those
guy.
guys those guys developed into some squats, and I've sent out a bunch of swabs of those. Uh, so we're waiting to see what happens with those. That big guy, that big white
Where
guy
is
with the
Oh yeah,
small
right
cap.
there. Yeah.
I've got that one's in the queue. That one's coming next.
Cool.
Uh,
And then yeah, so sorry, you only had
and
two
there
of
should
those.
be.
And then I'm not even gonna lie, the one at the top left, I mean that's a cool looking fruit too. What'd you do
He's
with
got a
that?
really pretty cap.
Yeah, I like the cap.
There's I think I sent out a bunch of those too. I think it was just labeled Amex KSAT P
Okay.
for
Cool.
pigmented.
Yeah.
And like I don't need to be the only one having fun with it. Other people can grow it and see what it's going to do.
Yes.
There's enough variability in both of the parent genetics that it could potentially do just about anything.
Yeah. Well, and you've been doing it long enough. You might have been the one that first person to tell me a story like this where you grow something and it grows exactly the same way every time, the stablest thing you've ever had, and then you send it to one friend and it does
It's
something
totally
completely
different.
different. Yeah.
Totally different.
So yeah, it
That
pays to spread the love, get it out there, let people start working the stuff. Definitely does. So now,
there's the squats.
oh, so now is this tub from a clone of those?
Not a clone, but from spore.
From sport. Okay, cool, nice.
Yeah, and they're not fully squat like a KSSS
Mm-hmm.
squat where it's like the pumpkin shape, but they're really short and thick.
Nice.
So still
Look
kind of
at that.
squatty. And then here's this is the Lamellay Majora one.
I
This
like
one,
these.
they're really pretty for a pigmented shroom.
Yeah.
They're just gorgeous.
Now, was
Uh,
this also from that tub?
yeah,
Okay, which one? Do you remember?
probably from one of the ones that was picked up in the, you see the missing patches
Oh,
of
okay, they're
the
gone.
overlay up
Okay.
there at the top.
All right.
There were a lot of samples that came out of that
Yeah,
tub.
I'll tell you what I like about these. They kind of look like gourmet mushrooms.
Well, they're just cute.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, they are.
I see them like what was it, the Fantasia, the dance of the sugar plum fairies, and the
Yep.
little mushrooms are
Yep.
dancing. Like they're cute like that. They do spread out though. They're named, I named them Lamellay Majora. It's kind of like a silly poke at like female anatomy,
Sure.
because they have a tendency to grow with a little bit of a lean to the caps, and the gills kind of spread out in one point and lean in opposite directions from each other, but it makes basically like a gill vagina on one side of the mushroom.
Okay.
uh, which I don't remember if I put a picture of those in there. Oh, there they go, there they go. I didn't focus on any of the anatomy parts, but just about every mushroom, you see in the biggest mushroom at the top,
Yep.
you see where the gills are kind of
Oh, I see.
spread
Kind of
apart right there.
split. Yep.
They all have that. Like all the mushrooms have
All
that
right.
split on them.
All
And they're
right.
still just even fully opened up, they're still really pretty. This is the same little cluster that was in that other picture.
Yep.
They're just all grown up and not as cute. And there's Butters again. This is Butters on rice cakes, like PF Textile.
I like these. I love
Yeah.
especially that one dead center there. Looks
They're just
super
little.
cool.
They're teeny tiny little guys. These guys all dried up to like maybe like a half a gram each. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're itty bitty little mushrooms. Super cute. I don't,
Get them.
I'm not trying to like max out the scale on everything. Like I accept all the mushrooms. They can be big, they can be little. There's something for everybody.
There you
Uh,
go.
and I think, and I wanted to grow these on the rice cakes because I feel like, in general, in my experience, things tend to not grow as big on the rice cakes as they do in like a full substrate tub.
Right.
Uh, and these, they're, look how white they are. They're
Yeah,
just
man.
so
This
white.
is what's attractive to me about them is they're just very unique. They're super white, flat caps, smooth, really nice dusky gray gills, and then just these little bulbous stipes. I like them. Very cool.
Well, and who doesn't like Butters?
Exactly.
I mean,
All
he's
right,
just a
here I want to
cool
pull
kid.
this up. Our buddy Gary Hefferly just said, "I think we need to start a mycologist gene tree next. I wonder how many of us folks go back to the OGs: McKenna, Stamets, Watson, and Crick, Socrates, Jesus." I'm definitely not related to Jesus. He was a Jew. I am not. So I know I'm not related to that guy. I'm probably not related to any of those people. But that'd be fun.
Well,
Somebody with a nanopore can go do
The
it.
McKenna brothers are credited with bringing back the Amazonian sample that
Yeah.
PE evolved from.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
besides that, and basically they spelled out the method for home cultivation.
Yeah.
In their psilocybin growers guide by Oss and Eric. That was
Yep.
their pen names for that.
Yep.
So they really like started the whole scene. But besides bringing back that sample from the Amazon, they didn't get into any kind of breeding or naming
Nope.
things or any of that stuff.
No, man.
You know, they
No, I actually showed him some pictures in one of the like before the episode started, and Dennis was just like, he's like, I can't even keep up with everything that what you guys are doing. He's like, there's just so many. He's like, we were just growing brown cubes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
But
what they
aim
called them. They
think
called them, they were cubensis. They were
yeah.
psilocybe cubensis. They didn't try to like
Yep.
give them pet
They were
names or
like,
anything
it's a
like that.
species. What else am I supposed to do with it? Yeah.
But then if you look back at some of the earlier ones, like you had like A strain and
Mm-hmm.
like they were just like labels, like lab labels, basically, like for different
Yeah.
phenotypes, but they weren't giving them like cool, catchy like market names. They were
Marketing names.
actually
Yes.
doing research, like
Right. Yeah. Oh, how the times have changed. Yeah. So I had Altered Vibes on recently, and one of the most fascinating takeaways for me was that he kept isolating the biggest, fattest pans fruits that he had,
oh,
and that he's actually, so instead of getting like a Jake Onsid just, canopy of teeny tiny little caps,
needles. Yeah.
he's getting a little bit more substantial size fruits, and his goal
Wow.
is to, right, because if the most annoying thing about pans is that they're so damn small,
Yeah, but they
why
they
not
pack a
make them
lot in
bigger?
that smallness.
They definitely do. Yes. So that, I'm sitting here going 5-10 years from now, is this just all going to be, are we like, okay, we did cubes, now we're on to pans, and then we're going to do zaps, and who knows where we'll be. We'll just, I know we're not going to stop doing it. That's for
Well,
sure.
and that's something that's like with pans or with a lot of the exotics. Uh, for the most part, people are, once they get them to actually grow, then they're not trying to start over from spores a whole lot.
Right. Yes.
With gourmets too, like most gourmets are isolated strains for performance that are, sold commercially.
Yeah.
But there's weirdos, like you were talking about with
Yeah.
the oysters. There's weirdos when you go outside. If you were to like actually start from spores every time your oysters fruited, you'd get variety.
You
You'd get
would.
weird
Yeah.
stuff,
You
and it might
you
not all
that you
perform as
raise a
well.
very good point. That is especially with pans, right? Because the story we've been told is, it's real, you got to get the right strain. They don't all fruit. And so once you get a good culture, everybody gets real precious about that culture, but you got to go back to spore if you want to make a change, if you're trying to, whatever Michael Jackson song reference we're trying to go for here. If you're trying to make a change, you gotta look at the man in the mirror. You gotta go back to spore.
Well,
You
and if you
can't
look at
just clone
that
it.
cross tub from the Amex KSAT cross, that's not a good performing tub.
Right.
Like it's real spotty. There's a lot of empty ground on it, but
Yep.
every fruit in it is different. And that was a full on like as multi-spore as I could make it. Like the whole initial spore
Right.
plate went to the grain, and so there are losses there, and there would be with pans too, because not every strain is going to fruit.
Right.
Not everything is going to perform
Yeah.
well, and then the overall, the I could have taken that plate and cut it into a million sectors and grown separate tubs of everything from the
Right.
start, like kind of blindly, like not really knowing what I was doing. But
Yep.
I just throw it all in there and see what it does. And I accept that I'm going to lose some jars and I'm going to lose some tubs along the way. I probably throw out more contaminated jars and tubs than most people with half my time in the hobby,
Yeah.
just because I I walk that line. I like the risk. No
Yeah.
risk, no reward.
And right, you don't know. The thing that looked pathetic might do well, and the thing that looked great might pitter out on you. But
You you really
if you
don't
don't
know.
run it, you don't know. You gotta run as much as you can. And
The
that's how,
Mr. Crinkle, that first little thing, like it wasn't meant to live.
yeah.
It couldn't reproduce on its own, and that project hasn't. The one picture that I sent you that has like a good like 8 or 10 fruits in it, that's the biggest flush of Mr. Crinkle ever.
Right.
Like literally,
Yeah.
usually it's 1 or 2 fruits uh, at a time, And so it wouldn't impress you performance wise, but as far as genetic potential goes, it's spawned like a whole the whole chocolate crinkle thing is really where it came into its own. Yeah, that's just popular because it's popular for the variety. You can get a lot of variety in a single tub from it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it's
entertainment.
interesting. Some things want to be stable, and some things just want to while out, and they're just never going to calm down. That's
Yeah,
just what they do.
if I had kept chocolate crinkle under wraps until I stabilized it, it would never have been released.
Right. Yep. Very true. All right. What else? Well, we sort of talked about some mutants a little bit, and you sent me a few pictures of something I had never seen, which are these things.
Oh, okay, Choco Mac. There's some golden fruits in that.
Oh,
In
should
that
I
set
do
of
that one
pictures.
first?
Yeah, go back to the
Okay.
golden fruits.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Choco Mac.
So Choco Mac. This is El Choco crossed with Melmac,
Mm-hmm.
and the first two generations were these kind of fruits. They have the hairy caps from the El Choco. They've got a lot of gold in the stipes, and very light colored gills. I mean, they're really pretty.
Yeah.
They're really pretty. They do drop a little bit of spores, but they drop those spores without the gills turning black. Like they really don't darken up a whole lot in the gills. So they're just really pretty fruits. And I was looking forward to another batch of these pretty golden hairy fruits. And I got these weird puffball blob things that are pink.
So
there's a nice
yeah,
flush of them.
Oh yeah. So these Choco Macs get some big old caps, don't they?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, and pretty standard fruit shape, but the stems have a little bit of crookedness to them,
Yeah.
and a little bit more density. So they have, like, I was excited about them. I was like, they have a lot of promise. I especially like the hairy texture on the caps is always.
Oh, I love
a
it's
thing
like a
for me.
receding hairline, or like a guy losing his hair is like trying to comb down that last little bit of hair. I love that that vibe there. Definitely looks cool. So from one of these grows, you got
these things. So, these were so weird that, like, I wasn't sure that they were still cube fungus. Like, I was like, they're not mycogone, but they're something weird, and I wasn't too sure. These puffball things, they have a really light, airy texture. They're like memory foam. Like, they're not firm. Even when they're growing, they're not firm. They're squeezable. And so there's a little bit of bruising just here and there. You can see a little bit of just a little hint of blue bruising on them. But I was trying to see if I could squeeze them and make them bruise, and they were very resistant. They did eventually bruise from my squeezing, but when you squeeze them, they just pop right back up again.
Wow.
Like, they don't squish and stay squished. And they're hollow. They're hollow inside. There's no sign of any gills or anything. And then the pink, that bothered me too. But I tried swiping it and swabbing it to agar, and trying to see if I could grow it out as a contaminant.
Right.
And it's definitely a pigment in the mushroom itself. And so I had this tub of these pink things, and I was like, well, here we go. I got to take one for the team. I might die, but I'm going to eat some. And so I usually like to eat a pretty good sized dose of stuff. I like a 7-gram dose is normal for me.
Okay.
So I was like, just to be on the side of caution, since these might be some alien poisonous fungus, I'll eat a half a dose. I'll eat 3.5 of it.
Okay.
And holy moly, they're definitely psilocybe mushrooms.
Yeah.
There was one fruit. I don't know if it's in the picture here, but there's one fruit in the corner, upper left hand corner. There's one of these things that actually has a cap, and
way
and
up in
gills.
the corner to the far left.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
There's one fruit that has a cap and gills, and so I collected spores from that one. But I've got clone from the puffball things, and I still haven't had a chance to grow them out again to see if they'll do it again. But this is Choco Mac. This is the same culture that was supposed to grow those hairy golden fruits, and it did something just completely off the wall.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why.
You couldn't. I mean, to be honest, it's a hard sell if you're like, these are the same thing.
That,
That
yeah,
it's hard to buy, to be honest. I believe you, but
they're
I would never have guessed. I would have
they're
never have guessed.
no, and even stranger that this was all multi-spore grow as well. Like there was nothing else in the mix. Which even with a multi-spore grow, you don't know for sure if you're going to get multi-spore
Yeah.
results because two spores could germinate before all the other ones and just grow out past them, and that's what you have. Uh, or later spores would get diamond paired by the
Right.
first culture that
Right.
started. So you end up with like one main strain, then a couple of like substrains from that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm really excited to get this one going again. I have sent it out to a bunch of people as a culture, so there should be a bunch of people working on it.
Nice.
And
Yeah, these days with all the diamond pairings people are doing, the mutants are great. Mutants aren't a problem anymore.
no,
So this is, whereas I used to just chop up mutants and blobs and just, my little phrase is blobs are blessings. I love dicing them up like chips, drying them out, little blob chip party. But now you're like, oh, we better put this on a plate and save it. You never know what it could do.
besides being pink, and I've seen there was a couple years ago there were some pink apes that somebody posted in one of the groups.
I
Uh,
remember that.
there's the pink color comes up sometimes.
Yep.
It's just a weird mutation. But the texture of these is so much different from any other like typical blob mutation.
Yeah.
Most of the blobs are either enigma fins, which turn into like kind of brain coral eventually, or if you get like Simon's shipwreck or the
Right.
chupacabra brains, they're just like really dense, solid growths.
Yep.
And these are really puffy and airy. They're very light for their size. Like they're just bizarre in every way.
And
So
if you don't want to eat them, you can sleep. You can rest your head on them and take a nap.
they are probably the strongest thing I've eaten in a really long time.
Wow.
And that's the other thing with those mutant crosses, like you mentioned, like the diamond pairing makes crossing something with enigma possible.
Yeah.
But a lot of the enigma crosses are pretty basic in their
it
morphology.
seems to want to revert hard. Yeah, it seems to want to go back to.
They don't have the 60-day growth cycle that gives enigma its power.
Yep.
So they're and enigma's a defect, to be honest. Like it's beneficial to us, but from the organism's point of view, it's
right.
It's defective, because it can't reproduce on its own.
Dude, I never thought about that when you were like, maybe enigma happened in the wild somewhere, but it's going to be a one and done. It's the odds of it,
Yeah, you'd see like a little fin or a tentacle and then it would be gone.
Yeah, exactly. Which is so fascinating that we can temporarily take these fluke flushes and then redo other things with them, even if they just revert or whatever. It's still very cool to see.
And that since we're talking about this, that reminds me, like in my quest to restart all these old projects that I had suspended for moving, I've got the clone from these pink puffs, and then I've got the master culture that actually this grow came from, but I still have to start the spores from the one fruit that was in the tub. And I think I'm more excited to see what that does than anything else, just because it's just so unknown.
Yeah, if you can get the pink quality to repeat in subsequent flushes, I would love to know what that is. We have to find a mass spec and figure out what.
Well, and people are giving me all kinds of name suggestions for it already. And I'm like, well, let's wait and see if it, Jigglypuff or whatever. Like,
I like Jigglypuff. Yeah, that's good.
Let's see if it, or Kirby. We'll see if it repeats first before we start naming it.
Yeah.
Like I've got all kinds of ideas for the El Chaco Ragnarok cross. There's a lot you could do with that name wise. But I want to see if it takes before I start naming it. You don't want to jinx the project
by getting too excited about the name. Yeah.
Although that did work for me with Chupacabra, because I named it Chupacabra before it really got super weird, and it lived up to it.
Nice.
So it's possible. It could go either way. Fresh from the farm, Fungi wants to know the fruiting time on these blob like definitely definitely more in the closer to an enigma type grow than a regular fruiting cycle. They took a really long time to develop.
All right, and just to put it in the back of your mind, you've probably already had these. You got cotton candy.
Oh yeah.
You got cotton Kirby. I kind of like cotton Kirby. Yeah, mutants are fun. And some, we're doing the mutant grow along right now. Pretty soon, maybe we'll start seeing some pictures how some fruits are developing. But they're not radically different. But the point is to grow a few different mutants, get people used to growing them, and we got more and more people doing crosses every day, and now they got some mutant cultures in their repertoire. And
Well, and there are
yeah,
subtle differences. Like if you can go back to
yeah.
the crinkle picks, the one that has the really brainy fruits.
Oh yeah, let me go. Here
Uh,
we go.
it's very enigma like, but if you look at, well, that one was good. Like the branching is
Mm-hmm.
like enigma usually starts as like either little tentacles or a little like kind of like a 5-pointed fin, 4 or 5 points on it, and then it splits and branches from there. The Mr. Crinkle has much more branching.
Yeah.
Basically, the
Mm-hmm.
fins start off like, instead of starting off with 5 fingers, it would start off with like 12 or 20,
Yeah.
and then that compounds. So the final growths end up being a lot more detailed than like
Yeah.
less flappy than Enigma.
Yeah.
Like you can see them there, like they start off with a lot of fingers.
Yep. Yeah. If it's just like with. So I think in my lifetime, as a kid, we had 3 dachshunds, and now as an adult, I've had 4 dachshunds. So I can look at a different dachshund and I can tell 10 dachshunds apart. I'm used to looking
Yeah,
at them.
yeah.
The average person that's never had a dachshund might just go, they look all exactly the same. Right?
Blobs.
It's just the
They're all
same with the
blobs.
same with the mutants. They're just a mutant. But if you start growing them, now you're gonna start paying attention to them. You're gonna start seeing all those little differences. Let me pull your. There we go. All right, did we miss one here? No, we did those. Great,
I
cool.
think we covered
Yeah.
all the fruits I brought in. And
Yeah,
now
man.
I've got tubs going again. Like, that's the next step after moving and getting the grains thawed out and rejuvenated. I've got tubs, and they're all, I mean, they're only a few days old, but I keep checking on them. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go check my tubs because I'm used to my usual rotation where
Oh
I'm
yeah.
I'm making tubs every day and harvesting tubs every day. They're all little tubs though, they're
Yeah.
tiny tubs, but I'm used to like a daily rotation of emptying tubs and filling them back up again. And I go to check on these tubs and I'm like, what? They still haven't done anything yet. And I look at the date and I'm like, it's only been 3 days, like
Yeah.
since I mixed the thing up. Like, no wonder it hasn't done anything yet.
Isn't it funny how sometimes you get the cycle right in your head, and then other times you're like, are these slow? And they're like, oh no, these are fine. You're like, but for some reason in your head, it just feels like it's, I don't know what that is.
Well, and I'm also paranoid about the frozen grain, so I'm checking on them to see, are they
Oh right.
colonizing, are they,
Yeah.
and they're all doing well. They're alive and happy.
That's good. Yeah, man, that's a big adjustment. Anytime we go out of town, I either have to bring stuff over to Jeff Karras to babysit my mushrooms,
Yep.
or I just have to, like, 4 months in advance, prep for the stop. I got to do the final transfers right before we go
Yes.
somewhere. It's a whole production, and you still come home and something didn't work
It is
out
the
right.
the ability to freeze things and bring them back to life, though, that really helped a
That's
lot with
cool.
being able to
Oh,
jumpstart things, because I've got grains ready to go basically.
yeah, I
So
like that.
that is good.
Now,
But
I
if
wonder
they
if you
hadn't
can
been frozen,
freeze.
they would have been fruiting in the jars already before I had a place to put
Right,
them.
right.
So
Yeah. Now, could you were freezing cultures, or you were freezing fully colonized jars of spawn?
half colonized jars of spawn.
Half colonized. Okay.
Yeah, just
All right.
whatever point they were at when it was
Gotcha.
time to go. Like,
Man, I'm gonna have to try that.
I tried,
That
anything that was fully colonized, I tried to fruit it
right.
before moving. I tried to,
Yeah.
because I did try to cut the rotation down and plan ahead for it, to some extent. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's a good. I got to give that a try because everybody has that problem. I can't, 30, 40 people probably message me going, oh no, I got to go out of town for a week. And I didn't plan for this trip. I just kind of got into growing mushrooms. And now what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, man, if you didn't plan that out a few months in advance, I don't know what to tell you. Just cross your fingers.
Yeah,
Either
come back to a
harvest right
black tub
before
if
you
there's
go
spore
or,
droppers.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
expect it to be black when you
yeah.
come back.
Nothing you
Uh,
can do about it.
I had when I had my my intestine rupture, and I was in the hospital for like a couple weeks. That was probably the worst. Not just because of the
Oh,
injury and surgery and whatnot, but coming back home and being like I had like a vacuum, like a wound vacuum, like attached to
oh,
me. Like it was
wound vacs are fun.
I was in bed for a while.
Yeah.
Uh, Liquid and freeze or chest freezer outside in the wintertime in Illinois. That's that's
Nice.
that's where they were. Uh, the
But
but I
yeah,
had the
your
wound
wound
vac.
vac.
I was bedridden. I couldn't move, and while I was in the hospital, I had a bunch of tubs that were ready to harvest when I went to the hospital. There was no planning ahead for emergency
Oh,
surgery. You just go when you go. And so I get back home, and everything that had fruited had like wilted, and then mold had set
oh
in
yeah.
on the wilting fruits. So I just had like tubs that were like so green, like even the walls of the tubs were green. You couldn't even see into them.
Mm,
Like I had a closet full of just green tubs, and
yikes.
it was horrific. And then I couldn't move, so like getting them cleaned out like took me another like couple of weeks of like kind of shuffling with my wound vacuum and dragging a tub
Oh
to the
God.
kitchen to try and like
Yeah.
dump it. And it was a process getting started back over then. So
Man,
yeah, that's my recommendation. If you're doing mycology, don't have emergency surgery, and
don't
if you
have
do, like,
emergencies. Don't go on vacation. Yes, none of that.
eat plenty of
Uh,
fiber. I
yeah.
still don't know why my intestine ruptured. There was no real reason given. The doctors couldn't give me anything. All the nurses said it was because of strawberry seeds. They said, "Oh, if you eat strawberries, the seeds will cut holes in your." I'm like,
Now, do you have
no,
diverticulitis? And then you
no,
got, so it
no,
wasn't from diverticulosis
no.
turning
Well,
into
it
divertic.
was
Okay.
diverticulitis. They call it diverticulitis, but there was no
Okay.
previous symptoms. It was just like a rupture just
Yeah.
happened.
So
I
it's,
coughed and it
a lot of
popped.
people have these, they have diverticulosis, which is just these little out pouches,
Right.
these like little separations of the lining in
Yeah,
the
and
colon.
seeds are bad for that.
Yeah, they really say like popcorn and seeds, though they say that's a myth, but I'm going to tell you frequently when we get people in for diverticulitis, they will say, "Oh yeah, I ate like a big thing of popcorn a week ago or something like that." So I'm inclined to think it probably does
Yeah,
exacerbate
there
it.
might be there is something to it, and I know from working in restaurants, a lot of older people are particular about what they eat. I don't want sesame seeds on my bun,
Yeah.
uh, stuff like that. Like they know from their personal experience what they can eat and what they can't eat because it'll cause them problems.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is something to it,
Oh,
but
for
in my
sure.
case, it was just kind of like a fluke. Like, and I'm otherwise healthy.
Yeah.
Uh, I just intestine just decided to rupture and try to kill me.
Yep. And I'll tell you now, don't don't play with that anymore because usually your first so sometimes people find out they have diverticulosis in their 50s, usually they don't, and then they get in their 60s 70s, usually closer to 70s. If you've had this happen in your 50s, it could happen again. I'm giving you
Yeah.
just like a little side advice. So
Oh yeah.
don't wait. Anything that remotely feels like that, go right in and get that check because you do not want to go through that again, man.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
definitely don't. Uh, I almost just thinking like if it ruptures again, I'm just gonna go ahead and die because the
It's bad,
surgery
huh?
was.
Oh,
Oh
it's bad. It's
well,
bad.
I wore the poo bag. I had to have a
Yeah.
poo
Yep.
bag
Yeah,
for
I
an
know.
entire year.
Yep.
The infection in my torso was so bad that I had to wait a year between the first emergency surgery and then
Yep.
the corrective surgery. I had to wait for all the fibroids basically
Yep.
to resolve themselves so they could actually go in and rearrange things again.
Hey,
So the
man.
poo bag, it was actually like I got to actually like it. It was kind of neat. No, don't do it. It's
No,
not fun.
it's
It's
not
really
fun.
not cool.
Yes, it's not neat. Yeah.
I did
Well,
have a really cool idea though, where I was gonna like I wanted to do a novelty grow in the colostomy bag,
oh my God.
and then because it's just a little bag, and
Uh,
uh, and it'd be real easy to throw some micropore tape over the hole
there you
and
go.
grow it out,
Yeah.
and then you could tape it to your chest, and you could lift up your shirt and show your colostomy grow.
Yeah.
Uh, you couldn't grow it on your chest, like you'd have to,
No.
you know,
Yeah, I
add it
mean,
later. But
hey, if you never got lucky enough to get rid of that thing, you could just start selling your own pan sub. You could have been
what
set, man.
that I shot down the colostomy grow idea though, just because like when I finally got the corrective surgery and I didn't need the bags anymore, I didn't want to see them ever again. So
Ever
I tossed
again.
them.
Yeah. I bet you avoid seeds and I mean the irony is you love growing
I
with
chew
popcorn.
everything better. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, you think about it. You don't, there's not
Oh
a
yeah.
single meal where I'm chewing my food and I don't think about like, man, I better chew this all the way.
Yes.
Like, I don't eat broken glass or any of that weird stuff.
I
Wood chips.
yeah.
Popcorn, I do
Yeah.
miss popcorn. I really like popcorn, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't eat popcorn now.
Yeah,
I have to settle for the
100%.
puff corn. You know,
Oh, that's good
the
though
art.
too. Yeah, that's
It's all
good.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's decent.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
man. Well,
close.
dang, that those perforations are no joke. So that you were only in the hospital for 2 weeks, I'm impressed.
Well, and the doctor said, uh, and this is actually like I do have some clue as to why it happened. The doctor said it was when I first went into the hospital after the rupture. I thought my appendix had burst because the pain was on my
That
right
acute
side,
too. Yeah, it's so
lower right side, and it had never burst before. So I was like, well, maybe this is it, you know. So I go in there and I'm like, hey, I think my appendix burst. They did their scans and they're like, your appendix is fine. You have an intestinal rupture, and blah blah
yeah.
blah. But my large intestine followed a different path from everybody else's. Uh, Normally it goes, you know, up and around the top of your
Hmm.
lower intestine and then down your left
Yeah.
side to your colon.
Yeah.
And mine went down and then looped back across to the right side and then looped back again. So there was like a
You
kind of
had
a
an extra
U-turn.
loop.
I had an extra loop, and that's where
Oh.
the rupture occurred, is in that little crease of that
So
extra
now do
loop.
you have a regular you have a regular colon,
Yeah,
right?
now I've,
Yeah.
even after having some of it removed, now I have a
Yes.
normal one.
Yeah, no, that's
And
wow, that's
when I was
funny.
a little kid, my mom always like used to talk about how I could eat so much. She was like, "Oh, you've got a hollow leg or whatever."
Oh,
No, I just
wow.
actually had more intestine.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I didn't. Now
I
I don't.
mean, that you went 50 years or not quite 50 years, that's actually
Pretty close.
pretty impressive.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
until I ate that
Wow.
strawberry seed. I'm telling you.
That's all it takes. One straw. That was the strawberry seed that broke the Dave's colon right there, as the saying
Well, it wasn't the
goes.
raw chicken. I know that.
No. Oh yeah, somebody mentioned that earlier. They're like, "What about the raw chicken?" Nah, that's not gonna clog up your colon. That's probably gonna do the complete opposite.
It's
Wow,
probably more
man.
likely to do the opposite.
That's good. I got one little personal story. Man, for anybody watching, I can tell you right now that whole, shout out to you. I'm so sorry you went through that. That is not a fun journey. But I already know your attitude. I'm sure you handled it like a champ. And now you got a regular colon like the rest of us.
Well,
That's
and
great.
the second surgery was a breeze. It was all laparoscopic, so they didn't
Yeah.
have to open me up. That was the most traumatic part of the first surgery, was they had to cut
Oh,
through my abs,
yeah.
and so that was the biggest part of the recovery, was like just your core muscles are severed,
Yep. Yep.
and it you use them for everything.
Yep.
I mean, when you reach for something with your arm, your core muscles stabilize you,
Yep.
and
See, you know
and
what
so
a
yeah,
C-section feels like now. This is what I heard from my
right.
wife the whole time was, you don't understand. And I'm like, I mean, in my head I do. You just literally had a hole cut into your belly. But
Well, the
yeah.
male the male concept of the C-section is like, oh, you took the easy way out.
Oh God,
No,
no. Fuck no.
it's
No.
not.
Oh yeah. Splitting a perineum is nothing compared to truly slicing through your lower abdomen. Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
was
a
actually
serious surgery, man. That is not,
yeah,
even though they're routinely scheduled in many parts of the country, it's like a medium to high risk surgery. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, well, the doctor, when the doc came in, that was his specialty, and he
Oh yeah,
was one of the best. And and then he left for my second surgery. He had moved on to somewhere else, and I got a new specialist that was like the best at the laparoscopic stuff.
perfect.
And so I was in good hands. And the second surgery was like in and out. Like I was ready to go home pretty much the next day. They make you stay until you can have a bowel movement. Uh,
Oh yeah, man, my first rotation in nursing school, I remember coming home the first week saying to my wife, "These motherfuckers are obsessed with people peeing and pooping. It is
Yes.
fucking
Oh my
weird."
God.
But yeah,
The
that
whole time you're in
means
the hospital, they're taking everything that comes in and out of your body and they're weighing it.
measuring it. Yeah.
And I'm like,
Eyes and
man,
O's, man. We got to keep track of what goes in and what goes out, especially in the ICU. That's just diligently done.
yeah,
Lower than that, it's less of a concern. But yeah, I mean, when you can poop and you can pee, that means your GI tract works. And if that doesn't work, that's
there's a
when the
problem.
real problem can set in. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, that, man, for all that, getting out in a couple weeks, that's pretty good. I'm impressed, and I'm glad all that went smoothly. I'm glad your relocation went smoothly, and you're kind of getting back into the grind. I know many people were like, "Man, I need some more Dave genetics. Need some more Dave genetics," and I'm like, I think it's getting close. Be patient.
Well, and I mean, I'm stocked up to the gills. Like
You
I've been
got
collecting
stuff.
spores from everything I've grown for years. So I mean,
You got stuff. Okay.
I could stop growing now and probably continue to provide genetics to the community for, till I die. But I want new. That's the thing
Yeah.
is I
Yep.
want new, like, and and everything is just was kind of with moving, everything's just kind of on hold. And I'm like, I can't wait to get this stuff back in a tub, because I'm like, I was looking forward to seeing it coming up soon. And like now I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not even in production, but it's all coming back. Uh,
Please tell me that because this is, I mean, I'm still a youngster in the community. So for me, I'm only sort of starting to get a taste of this, but I can definitely see the value in somebody like you for whatever you're swabbing, just like pulling off 10% and just like putting it in a different spot. And then 5 or 10 years from now going, guess what I got, kiddies?
oh,
Remember
that's
this?
there's there's 2 gallon freezer bags that I'm picking at right now that are
Nice.
the other swab from pretty much everything I've grown for
Oh,
years.
bro, the other swab. Yes, I love
So
that
like
name.
all these things that have been like, stabilized and released, they all came from
Yeah.
the one swab at one point. And and there's some duplicates in there, but there's a lot of weirdos in there too. There's a lot of like
I love it.
I've got tons of stuff that I haven't even grown yet, like that I still need to get to grow the first time.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's endless. It
It is
really is
endless.
endless.
Man, I probably still have at least 5 swab sets from you I haven't even touched yet. So yeah, it
Well,
never ends.
and there's always more coming.
Yep.
And I feel bad because I've got another Ziploc gallon bag full of things that other people have sent me that I was supposed to grow that I still haven't gotten to.
Oh dear
And
Lord. Don't get me started on that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there's lots.
Everybody wants to, people want to, if you're nice to them, they want to be nice to you. And I used to get sent plates a lot. And then I had this weird guilt of plate guilt. I had to like work the plate. And so, I mean, I even have this problem right. I always have too much shit. And I'm like, oh my God, I've done like 14 transfers. And I haven't actually gone to grain on this yet. What am I doing?
Well, and
Yeah.
that's the hard thing with me is like I don't have to worry about the transfer thing because I'm usually going for multi-spore anyway with my own
Right.
grows.
Right.
So like my rotation is a little bit shorter on the front end as far as like
Right.
getting stuff
Right.
to grain. Uh, but when somebody sends me something, I mean it's usually clean already, but I have to fruit it out before I can get to the spores again. So like if somebody sends me a live culture, I have to get it to grain. Because I can't keep
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
It's got to
I
it's got
hear
to
you.
squeeze its way into the rotation. But if you send me spores, I'll try to get them in at some point. Like I'm gonna grow them eventually.
Someday. Yeah, someday.
That was somebody suggested once in a conversation. They said, well, what if you just took spores from everything and put them all into a solution, like a big multi-spore solution of all the spores? What would it do? I'm like, it would do everything eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, chances are it would grow something very normal at first.
I can't remember who did that. I can't remember if it was my buddy Deadpool or Slightly Feral or who it was. But yeah, one of my old school buddies, before I had a Discord server, they did that. They called them mystery grows, and everybody sent them genetics, but they weren't supposed to tell them what it was. And then, they made a big multi-spore slurry and sent it out to everybody to grow. It was kind of fun.
Well, and it stays mystery too, because you know, I mean, only two things can breed at a time.
Right.
Or, you know, you could have like the daimon thing could happen or whatever, but any given mushroom you just wouldn't know what anything came from. It was just kind of obscured their like, kind of like at risk of a bad reference, the slave ships, where you brought people to America and basically cut off their roots. And
100%,
you know, and so you've got like you just your history starts now. Basically.
I'm adopted, so I can relate to that. I mean, when I had my first child, it was like, oh, okay, my genetic story is now begun with this first generation. Yeah. I'm old school F1, man. F1. That's the way it goes. All right, hold on. I got another. Gary, thank you, Gary, for all these great questions. How long have you kept the half colonized frozen grain bags? I think you said a couple months, right?
Yeah, they're all jars, no bags, but yeah, 2 months. 2 months
just of outside in Illinois winter.
Yeah, in storage tubs. I mean, they're not just out in the elements, but they're definitely frozen. And then they were in a storage unit, which is also frozen for a good part of that. But they were outside for a while. They were in my trunk for a while, but they never got up to a decent temperature until it's actually like summertime here now. It's beautiful out. I'm ready to go.
Wait,
I'm ready to go
we're not that far away. We just had a blizzard yesterday. I mean, it's starting to warm up a little bit, but yeah, we had snow everywhere. Weather was good last week, and then just Ohio decided to dump some snow.
Yeah, all our flowers are blooming. Like it's beautiful.
Nice. Yeah, we got a couple little bulbs starting to pop. I think we're still a couple weeks away yet, but
some of those bulb ones like to come up early, like just in case they can.
Yeah.
Like they'll try it at the first opportunity, and if they freeze and die, they freeze and die.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we have flags in our yard. They do that. Our daffodils do that. Yep, they get. And then, man, we finally took it down because we got to put we got to move our garage. But we had a little magnolia tree. First year we moved to Ohio, we had the most spectacular bloom. You know, it was like just the most spectacularly beautiful tree for like 2-3 weeks. And then, of course, all these magnolia petals fall to the ground and turn into just gross, brown disgustingness. And it's awful. But man, ever since, I have never in the last 5 years, it'll bloom, and then a day or two into the bloom, it'll freeze, and they all drop that night.
That was when I was in the Army in Hawaii. I had a little apartment, and right outside in our little parking lot / courtyard thing, there was this like probably 50-60 foot tall mango tree. And I mean, all the mangoes you could eat, like constantly, like there was just always mangoes. You had like a long pole with a little net you could scoop them off the tree with, but you could only reach 15 feet high in the tree. And so like basically there were rotten mangoes shitting on your car. It was like pterodactyl shit. Basically, like your car would get lit up with rotten mangoes like on a daily basis. It was terrible. So at first you're excited about the mangoes, and then you start hating them.
All right, I got a question. My buddy Mike Denver, he asked this earlier, and he's asking it again. So let me pull it up. Anyone in chat have an opinion on the most spiritual strain? So I figure let's let Dave give an opinion on that.
That's a tough one. If you go with like online advice, like go to spore websites, they talk up everything like it's like the most potent. I mean, it could be like random
Right.
outdoor mushroom, and they're like, oh, it's so spiritual, but
Right.
they have to say something to sell it. Because
Yeah.
if they just said, hey, this one's the same as like 10 other strains on our menu, nobody would care. Like, so they talk things up. And so you kind of have to go with like people's like actual experience
Yeah.
rather than what the websites say. uh, and it's so subjective. um, I was told that my albino Odisha India squats are very mystical and spiritual and visual. um, but I mean, if a few people say it, then you can
Right.
start like getting, maybe there's something to it. But then like somebody else will take it and be like, man, I didn't get anything off this, it sucked. And everybody's different. So I
Right.
think the setting that you have going into it, like your mindset going into it and your preparation for what you want to get out of the experience,
Right.
uh, plays into it a lot more. And then the actual potency of the strain, there is some differences in effect for sure. Because
Right.
I like to eat strong stuff, but not all strong stuff hits you the same way. Uh, like it's different. Uh,
Well, even the same stuff doesn't hit me the same way.
no, no, it can be different every
Which
time
basically speaks to your point of it has a lot more to do with set and setting. And sometimes
because you're
you
you're
can
not
set this
necessarily the same person you were when you ate it the
right,
last time.
and you can set the same set and setting, but if I set the same set and setting on Monday and then 3 Mondays from now do the exact same thing, I lived 2 or 3 more weeks of my life. So no
But
matter
then
whether it's just
even
different.
with even with like the website, talking things up and selling points and whatnot, that still has an effect on your expectations going into the experience. So when somebody buys a strain that they're like, oh, the website said this one is spiritual, then you go into it looking for that, and you're more likely to encounter that
Yes. Yeah.
because of your expectations. So I think uh, for me, if I wanted to have uh, a more meaningful experience, like a more meaningful spiritual experience, I would try to go with something that was closer to nature, honestly, than something that's like super developed in the lab. Uh,
Right.
because potency aside, you can eat a bunch of weaker shrooms and get the same effect as one big strong one, uh,
I
give or take a
remember it,
little bit of
dude. That was
stomach
the
upset.
first thing Ed said to me. Ed Grand was like, I don't get these guys. They're so obsessed with potency. And he's like, all you got to do is just eat a couple more. And I
Well,
was
and
like,
that's the
yeah,
difference between a weak one and a strong one is usually less than double.
yeah, less than double.
It might be like
Right.
1.5 times, you
Right.
know. Uh, but when it is double or more than double, you definitely notice.
Yeah.
Yes. uh, the chocolate crinkle brains tested at like 2.09, I think,
Mm,
HPLC testing, and that's like closer to like 3 times maybe like your average
right.
outdoor
Yep.
potency range. And it definitely, and then there's it's not like a straight scale, like double the amount of psilocybin doesn't give you double the effect. It's like
Right.
exponential. Like
Right.
there's thresholds that you pass through.
Yep.
It's really hard to measure. But yeah, for me, I would take something that has like some kind of like history of use, like Maria Sabina down in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
They used they didn't use cubes for their ceremonies. They used other species,
Yep.
Mexicana and whatever, because they're smaller and more potent, so you get more bang for your buck.
Whatever they could find.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
like I've got my strain that I named Maria Sabina, which comes from the Huautla genetics, and it's definitely not the outdoor shrooms that grow there anymore.
Right.
And uh, and I feel like just because of where it came from, in my head, when I eat it, I end up with more of a spiritual experience from that, just because of
Hmm.
the history of the region and the
Right.
history of use in the region. Uh, so there's that, but again, it's
Right.
it's it's in your head, uh, what you do with it. Like somebody that takes the
Yeah.
same mushroom
Yep.
that gives you a spiritual revelation, they take it and go to electric forest and watch EDM shows. uh,
Right.
they're going to have a happy party vibe and not necessarily a spiritual experience.
It's like when you go to a Flaming Lips concert. If you don't do shrooms or acid or fucking something, I did that not too long ago, and I was like, wow. I mean, I like them, but
It's not the
before
same experience.
I mean, before that, I'm like, the Flaming fucking Lips are the greatest band ever, and it's like, oh, not when you're just having a beer. They're
Yeah,
fun,
and I
but
will say that for having done some festival stuff, there's some EDM type music, dubstep or whatever that
yeah,
you listen to, and you're like, this is crap. But eat you a
not on
handful of
shrooms.
mushrooms and listen to it,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's like it's mind blowing. Like the
yep.
music has like deeper meanings and
Oh
and
my
and
god, yeah,
whatnot.
yep. Absolutely true, man.
Although
Uh,
there is some EDM that's better than others too, I will say. I'm not going to name any names,
yes, you have
but
to listen to a lot. I think you either have to be a musician bent that way, or you have to listen to a lot of EDM. But eventually, you will figure out
there's
some is more sophisticated than others for sure.
there's regs and mids and and
Yeah,
and then the top shelf stuff, like there is
exactly.
with anything.
Like everything. Yeah, yeah, man. All right, we're 2 hours in. I'm whipped. My kid is sick, my youngest, and I'm fingers crossed I don't get sick. But anyway, I am.
You got to
I
take
said
care
to
of that F2,
myself,
man.
yeah, I got to keep the F2 on the straight and narrow. Yeah, the daycare is these days. The daycare has got hit real hard. People just sending their kids to school or to daycare no matter what, and getting
Well,
everybody
there
sick.
was, during the pandemic that slowed down a little bit because they just wouldn't let you. And then they were
Exactly.
like, the pandemic's over, so it's open season. You can sneeze in people's faces again. But you know what? The pandemic didn't really end.
Oh, I know. It's just another cold now.
It's
Yep.
just it's just less media attention to
Yeah.
it. Like
Yeah.
it's still happening.
I mean,
Uh,
the way I look at it, it killed off pretty much everybody it could, and then now the
yeah,
rest of us we just get sick. It feels a little different than a regular cold,
yeah.
but now
But
it's just
it's
the cold again.
yeah. Well, we'll survive.
We are definitely surviving. I don't know, man. The cough on them suck though. I will tell you that. That COVID
I
cough is annoying
I
as a
didn't end up
mother.
getting it ever. Um,
What?
I didn't get it.
Oh,
I
stop
was
it.
I had
Stop it.
surgery and I was pretty much locked. I was bedridden for like most of the pandemic. So like
Wow. You're like,
so
okay,
I
guys,
missed it.
Dave Wombat eats raw chicken, had his unusual colon surgically removed. It is now normal and yet has not had COVID. I don't know
Yeah,
how all that
I
happens.
think, and I've got like lung issues from like a bad pneumonia years back. So I've got some scarring in my lungs and they're
Oh,
sensitive.
yeah,
They
I think I
swell up
remember you saying
and
that.
I get recurrent pneumonia very easily. And so I was worried that I was one of the high risk people for COVID.
Right.
Uh, but just because of the whole timing with the surgery and all that, I just missed it. I missed the pandemic.
Dude,
Uh,
you lucked out.
yeah,
I'm mad.
what can you do?
I mean, whatever you did, that's probably what we should have done. Yeah. I guess
I'm kind of a
hide.
recluse anyway. I don't go out much anyway. I'm so busy like in my own little imaginary mushroom kingdom that I've
Right.
got plenty to do at home. I run out for supplies every now and then.
Yeah, Bruce the Shroom makes a very good point here. I thought the easiest place to get COVID was in the damn hospital. I mean,
It
I think
probably
you're
is,
right.
yeah.
I think you're right, Bruce. But somehow not if you're Dave Wombat. So yeah. Hey man, well this has been great talking to you. I can't wait for I feel like right now you're like them little cars where you're getting them revved up again, and now we're just going and can't wait
Sometime
to
in the
see.
near future, sometime in the near future, I will be back with some fresh pictures. Like
Love it.
I can't wait. Like I've been doing in my group, my Facebook group. I've been like busy with like uh, trying to just doing flashback posts. Like here's a flashback to this old, and doing the
Right.
history of different strains. Just
Yeah.
to keep the content moving. But really, I'm just trying to like stall for time until I
There
can
you
get
go.
some fresh stuff to take pictures of.
Right. But that's great, man. That's like, everybody's friends with John Allen on Facebook now, and how cool is
Yeah.
that shit, man?
Oh
Just
man.
blowing my mind every day. He'll have another post with just a bunch of old photos or some old article, and it's just like, yeah, man.
Followed by a post of how his computer is not cooperating with him, and
that's what we need to do. I need to do a GoFundMe. We got to get all the other content creators, all the other big Facebook groups. We need to do a big, massive GoFundMe and fund like the documentary of John Allen, fly a crew out there, interview him, put it together, get a nice 2-hour, documentary about this guy. He's getting older.
Yeah, for people that don't know who John Allen is, this guy traveled the world and brought back most of the land races that we're familiar with today. Yeah. Like all the Thai mushrooms. Like, I mean, he's been all over the world.
He's like the pre-Alan Rockefeller.
Yeah.
Is all over the place, collecting stuff, psilocybe friendly. Yeah.
He is definitely an icon in our hobby. The source of all genetics.
And what's crazy is when you post something, my favorite these days is you'll post something and he'll be like, wow, look at that flush. And then he'll do a post going, here's the original fruit that came from, or here's like right. This context that you never know you needed for that grow. Stealthy Spores is like, please do it. That would be amazing. It would be. I just don't want to be the person to collect like $50,000 from somebody and have it not be enough money to make a movie. But yes, in the back of my head, I'm like, how can we figure out how to get somebody to, throw some money at getting, probably amongst all of us watching the show or all the content that we watch out there, there's got to be like 5 or 10 people that have the right skill set to go do this.
Oh, I'm sure.
It will be such, just from seeing his posts, you just know if you went to this guy's house, there is just a treasure trove of documentation, photos, relics, information, and to get to sit down and talk to that guy about all that, it would be so amazing.
One of these days.
Fingers crossed, we'll figure out.
You gotta do it.
So I just put it out there into the cosmos. Maybe tomorrow somebody messaged me and says, well, let's do it. That's what I hope. We'll see. Anyway. All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being on. It's always a pleasure. I'm glad you're kind of rocking and rolling again. I'm ready. Every year we get something really super cool or multiple really cool things from you. So I can't wait to see what the next year holds. And when you got something exciting, let me know. We'll have you on and we'll talk about it.
I will be back.
All right, man. Take care.
I'll be back.
Yes. All right. Take care, Dave.
You too.
All right, guys. Let me grab the overlay. All right. Dave Wombat never gets old. Like I said, never gets old. Love that guy. One of the absolute coolest guys in our community. For me, 100% focused about everything that matters, which is doing the work, finding something new, bringing something to the table, contributing to the community. I can't say enough for that guy. If you guys want to get a hold of Dave, as he mentioned, it's not always easy. Just get in the DMs, get a list. He'll tell you what he's got. He's got a lot of stuff. And, be persistent. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. If you really want some genetics from him, just keep going. I think the first time I messaged him, I had to message him, 3 or 4 times. And then one day I messaged him and he responded almost instantly. And he said, yeah, sometimes you just catch me at the right time and I'm able to respond. And I'm like, great, let's buy some genetics. So if you guys want to get a hold of him, he's on Facebook. He also has Wombat Labs. He's not hard to find. I'll make sure I have all that information in the description, at least by the morning. And I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic week. Grow a bunch of mushrooms. Do something nice for somebody. If you make a promise, keep it. Just like, let's really think about being a positive part of this community. If we all spent more time doing that than bickering and trolling and complaining, this already cool community would be even cooler.